This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
And welcome to Imaginary Stories. Kelly Nelson here, joined as always by star of podcasting and television, Johnny Sorrow. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. I've been looking forward to doing this show for a while now. We've been talking about doing this one for quite some time, and everything sort of fell together.
Yeah.
For perfect timing. Look, one could say we're jumping on the fact that there's a hit show on TV about the subject we're going to talk about right now, but I assure you it's a complete coincidence.
Yeah, honestly, that was the first seed of an idea, I believe, for you, Johnny. Yes, tonight we're talking about Archie Comics and the wonderful history of Archie Comics, and this is going to be an epic one, folks. But yes, Johnny, your idea was, I guess it was at the end of last year, 2016. And by the way, this is, I guess, our first show of 2017.
Yes.
You told me about the Riverdale show coming up. I think I maybe heard about it somewhere, but just really vaguely. And you were the first one to really explain it to me and the concept behind it. And and then that got the ball rolling. And here we are. I mean, it's been about 3 months in the works. I've done an insane amount of planning for this one, relative to my other podcasts over the years. A lot of research. Because, we're both huge comic book geeks, of course, and I know a lot of shit, but Archie was something that, I collected a lot when I was a kid, but then I basically forgot about for 25 years or whatever. And so I had to really, teach myself a lot about this. But this is going to be a blast. We got so much to talk about. But as always, we begin with, our personal connections to the material. And Johnny, what is your Archie story?
You know what? It's a huge comic book collector, started in the 70s, and Archie was ubiquitous, and it was appealing. You always got someone would give you an Archie comic, and I liked them. I loved superheroes. That was my number one love. But I also liked Archie comics. And it was fun because you didn't have to I need to get the next issue. It was it's an Archie. Yeah. And there were so many of them. Like the 70s was still part of that huge Archies boom.
Yeah.
And they had a million titles. And then they'd have the digests. And to be honest with you, I also bought the Richie Riches and basically just of those group, Richie Rich.
Yeah.
I like those. And you get those in those digests that they still sell to this day at every supermarket. And I just really liked Archie. I loved the characters. You know, Jughead was my favorite. And I got into the history of it. We were talking before the show. I had a book back in the 80s that they put out for some anniversary that had examples of all the historical stories and stuff, but also the history of the comic. You know, how it got started, why the spinoffs happened, controversial subjects. So I've always been a big Archie geek. And yes, I haven't. And to be honest with you, I have read Archie comics in recent years because they're one of the only comic that you'd still find on the supermarket newsstand.
Yep.
And what got me interested was they did these ones where they're all grown up. And I flipped through those and I enjoyed them. And I never bought one. You'd read them at the supermarket. And then recently they've relaunched Archie. The Archie line.
Yeah.
Mark Waid is writing a lot of them. The art's totally different, more realistic. The storylines are a bit more realistic. But it's entertaining. And I read those for free. I read the latest issue came out yesterday.
Okay.
And I read it yesterday while I was shopping. So I've never really totally given up on the Riverdale gang.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, for me it must have been around, shortly after I started collecting comics, because I can remember having some pretty old Archie digests. Like, for me, it was all the digests. I probably had some of the actual comic book Archies, but not very many. They were right at the checkout line in the grocery store. So, yeah, it was a, impulse thing right at the end. And yeah, they, like you said, you didn't, wait for the next issue. So there was a lot of like gaps. You'd get a issue here and there. Sometimes it would be an Archie digest. Sometimes it would be a, Laugh Comics digest.
Mm-hmm.
Little Archie was one I was big into. That was, yeah.
Yeah, Little Archie was my favorite of all the Archie spinoffs. That was the best one.
Me too. Little Archie was the one that I was actually at one point collecting like every one month by month. But the other ones would come and go. There was the double digests, the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for years, like for most of the 80s, I would have been collecting Archie comics, and I amassed, a pretty big collection of the digests that I remember when I was a teenager. My niece, so when I was 9 years old, my brother had a daughter, so I was an uncle when I was 9 years old. So when she got to be about 9 or 10, she was into Archies, and so I gave her my whole collection because I wasn't using it anymore. They were sitting in a couple boxes in the basement. So that's what happened to that was it for me. I mean, I gave her the Archie collection and didn't really think too much about Archie for years. I'd always see it in the supermarkets, and I'd always, be amazed that they were still publishing these and that they were still creating new stories. And it was, that was kind of the fascinating thing for me, like as a curiosity as I got older. But I think I bought one it was an anniversary about 10 years ago. I bought one.
Yeah, they'd even because we're gonna focus mainly on the golden age into the 70s, but like into the 80s, 90s, they revamped characters like Big Ethel. They stopped making her ugly,
right?
And stopped calling her Big Ethel. She's just Ethel. They introduced a gay character, Kevin.
Yep.
Kevin Keller, in a very they make a big deal about it. It's like he's the new kid in school. Veronica has a crush on him. He tells Jughead, "Oh, by the way, I'm gay." And then the whole thing is Jughead wanting to fuck with Veronica because she doesn't know that Kevin's gay.
Right.
That's the end of it.
Yeah. Well, that's neat because that plays into the history of the Jughead and Veronica characters and how they had kind of this rivalry, over the years.
And one last thing about my collecting years is I mentioned that my dad was an auctioneer, and antiques appraiser. So we lived at flea markets and auctions on people's homes. We did, and you name anywhere you'd find comic books. And I could occasionally come across Archie comics from the late 40s and 50s, not in the best shape, but you could get them for really cheap. The guy selling comic books he was more concerned about trying to sell you, charge a lot for a Brave and the Bold number 29,
right,
than he was, Laugh Comics, it's torn a little bit and everything. So I had a pile of those too. And those were a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, and with the miracle of the internet, I've been able to go back in the last few months and see all, like, the covers anyways of all these old Archies for the first time, and it's been a really fun trip going through that and the different eras and all that. But yeah, well, let's get into it. We got a lot of ground to cover. So we're going to set the stage here with some history, in the pre-Archie years. And the company that Archie came from was originally called MLJ. And that was the initials of the three founders of the company. And this was back in the Wild West early years of comic books in the late 30s when, Superman hit it big and for DC. And then, there was a gold rush basically after that with companies springing up overnight all over the place to capitalize on Superman's popularity. So you had a huge boom in superhero comics in the late 30s, early 40s. So that's where MLJ got into things because they wanted to get in on the superhero comics. And they, the comic, well, I don't know if it was the first comic that they published, but Pep Comics came out in about 1940. And the lead character in that series was the Shield. Mm-hmm. Which was a Superman, ripoff essentially, but it was also like a precursor to Captain America because it came out a year before Captain America. And if you know the look of the Shield, or if you can check this out online, it's very much, the stars and stripes, and the costume even resembles the original Shield that Captain America had for the first couple issues of the comic, the more triangular, right? So that's how MLJ got started, and they were all about superheroes at first. They had, in addition to the Shield, they had the Comet was another famous one, the Black Hood, and there would be a whole family of superheroes.
Was the Fly in that group, or that when they revamped them in the early 60s?
I believe the Fly was from the late 50s wave.
Yeah, okay.
Of comics, or of superhero comics, because they would keep coming back to it over the years. After Archie hit it big, and the company became actually Archie Comics, the name changed. They kept, dabbling in superhero comics whenever superhero comics became hip
popular.
Again. Yeah,
right.
Went through a phase. So in the late 50s, it was right when DC was starting to get back into the heroes in the beginning of the Silver Age, and Kirby, and actually it was Simon and Kirby created the Fly, I believe, for Archie Comics. It didn't last very long, or they didn't. Kirby didn't last very long in the book, and then in the 60s when you had the whole camp craze and the Batman TV show and Marvel Comics really going through their first peak period. You had, for Archie Comics, the Mighty Crusaders.
I had a couple issues of those, the Mighty Crusaders from the 60s.
Yeah, they're interesting. I mean, I've never actually had the physical issues, but I've been able to read them here and there. And at that point, Jerry Siegel, the original writer of Superman, was actually the writer of the Mighty Crusaders comic for Archie in the mid-60s. I always felt it was a very unusual superhero book. It didn't feel right, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It felt obviously like a rip-off of Marvel Comics, but it also had this really weird, kind of almost creepy feel to it.
Yeah, they were. I'll mention. They were kind of creepy. What they were going for was they saw that the soap opera elements of Marvel were a hit.
Yeah.
So they just they tossed a lot of it in there.
Yeah.
But it was creepy. They had one character, I can't remember his name, but he had a human soul, but he lived in android bodies, and the bodies, he'd die a lot. And then they just transfer his soul into a new body.
Right.
And he was in love with a woman, of course, and then the problems of that. But it was very creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It's I've always wanted to have like a collection of that, just because I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by the sort of C level superhero comics of the 60s, like the non-Marvel and DC stuff. That's always fascinated me. And that's definitely a topic for perhaps a future imaginary stories.
Yeah, I'll even, just so we get it out there, there was a character that one of those companies introduced and had a brief run, and he was called Nemesis. And these were awesome, but they were bonkers. If you ever get a chance to check these out, it's heaven and hell is involved in these. They're superhero comics with angels and devils.
That's crazy. All right, so let's get into the Archie story. One of the co-owners of MLJ was John L. Goldwater, and he would eventually become the main owner, the publisher. At first, he was the editor-in-chief, and so he was responsible for the comics, and he would be involved with the company into the 80s, into when he died. So a very important name. He was behind the creation of the Archie character, I believe, or like it was his idea. Archie was actually preceded by another teenage character in MLJ comics called Wilbur.
Wilbur.
Yeah, by about 4 issues. And Wilbur Wilkin, right?
I don't remember if that was because there was that Wilkin boy, which they came out with in the 60s that Archie had. But I just remember it was Wilbur. Yeah. Because, again, I had a Wilbur comic that I found at a flea market.
Yeah.
Because they continued to publish it.
Yeah.
After Archie became a hit.
Oh, yeah.
Can't have enough teenagers.
Yeah.
But there was something lacking in Wilbur.
Yeah, for sure. But no, it was actually Wilbur Wilkin, because the Wilkin boy was like a revamp of it.
I see.
Yeah, like no idea is ever, bad enough to not be revamped, years later.
He's stuck on the name.
Yeah.
I love Wilkin.
Wilkin. But yeah, they would reuse the character. But he actually preceded Archie by 4 issues. But then we come to Pep Comics number 22 in 1941. This is the first appearance of Archie. And he was a secondary character. Like at this time, the Shield was still the cover feature of the comic. This was 1941. This was World War II. This was the peak of superhero comics, the golden age of superhero comics. And this was the world that Archie debuted in. And a few months ago, when I went to Victoria on Vancouver Island with my fiance for a few days vacation, it's actually where we met, and it's actually where we're going to get married in a couple months. And that's why I've cut back on podcasting a bit. But anyway, so we went to a really great used bookstore in Victoria called Russell Books. It's one of the best used bookstores in Western Canada. And this was when you had just started talking about Riverdale and all that. And so I stumbled upon their selection of old Archie digests, and that's when I started buying a bunch of them. That day I sent you some pictures on Facebook about it. And then the next day we went to one of the best comic book stores in Victoria, and I purchased the 75 Years, 75 Stories collection that came out last year of Archie Comics, because 2016 was the 75th anniversary of Archie Comics. And so here we go. In that edition, of course, they have the first story from Pep Comics, number 22. It's interesting, of course. It's interesting in a lot of ways. Interesting in the fact that so many of the, long-time conventions, long-time characters are right there, right in the first story. because you have Archie, but you also have Betty and Jughead being introduced in the first strip. No Veronica yet.
Not yet.
Archie wants to be called Chick.
Chick.
Yeah. And they stress he doesn't like to be called Archie.
Or Archibald.
Or Archibald. I don't think the Chick thing lasted too long.
Yeah, it didn't. Apparently, I remember the first time I read that story, I was a teenager, and I was like, Chick? What the fuck is this? And apparently, though, at the time, that was like a really cool nickname that guys wanted to be like, call me Chick. And so that was the reason for that one, which I always thought was kind of funny. But you also notice in the story, they're not perpetually 16 like they will become.
Yeah.
They're like 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
In this one, Archie doesn't have the same outfit. It's very much more Depression era looking.
Yes.
Than it would become. And I believe one of the inspirations for Archie, because you got to think the superhero boom, like, yeah, let's try a comedic teenager as a backup. It had to be at least somewhat inspired by the Andy Hardy movies.
Yes. Yeah, and they definitely were. And Archie was inspired by Mickey Rooney, of course. That's definitely the genesis of the character.
Down to in that first story, there's a character who you don't see ever again, is Archie's grandfather.
Yes.
And it's like Archie's dad's one, like, oh, I'm gonna murder you, you dummy. And the grandfather's the one, like Judge Hardy, sitting him down and giving him advice. You can totally see that if you're familiar with those movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the grandfather lives with them. Yeah, it is. Yeah, like a Depression era family. Betty's parents are very elderly.
Yes.
Actually, which wasn't something that would be consistent as the years went on. The story was written by Vic Bloom, and the art was by Bob Montana, who is very synonymous with Archie Comics, of course. He was only 20 years old at the time. This was not unusual at the time, because to get into comics, you didn't really need any experience in a lot of ways. They were desperate for any talent they could get in these early days, especially when titles and comics and comic book publishers were just exploding like crazy.
And because most able-bodied grown men were going off to fight in the war. Yeah,
and there's another aspect to it, definitely. Montana would, though, be, a main artist with the comic for many, many years afterwards. And this first issue, the art's kind of rough, no doubt. But he would develop into a very polished artist as the 40s progressed.
It's very similar to the art you'd see in the Timely books of the era, like Captain America and Human Torch and Submariner.
Yeah.
It wasn't always the best.
No.
And they were trying to, do we do this cartoony? Do we do it realistic looking? It took a while for them to find the perfect mix.
Yeah, definitely. You could tell it was that swipe style where one artist would copy another artist basically straight from their drawing, and you would see these, frames and pictures that were obviously basically swiped from another comic book. The Archie Comics, the early ones have that feel to it totally. But it's set in Riverdale right from the beginning. Jughead hates girls right from the beginning. We get all this stuff. Jughead has the crown right away. The whoopee cap, as it was known at the time. Kind of a fad thing of the 30s, from what I gather. The Jughead crown. That has always been there ever since. So I went through a few of these early stories. The 75 Stories book is divided into different decades and goes in chronological order, of course. The early stories, of course, deal a lot with World War II and the war effort. I don't know if you got into many of these, Johnny.
Oh, I did. I read that. I also got the hardcover Best of Archie's 75 years, and
Right.
I got a used one that's just Archie in the 40s.
Yeah, you went all out. I was jealous when you showed me the pictures of those ones, because especially the '40s ones, because that's an era of Archie I'm not very familiar with, because I don't think even in the '80s in the reprints they really went that far back.
They didn't, and I was like, had read a handful from that book I had mentioned earlier. I read the first story ever, the one that introduces Veronica, the one that introduces Mr. Weatherby, and maybe one or two others, and that's it. So that book is a revelation. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love the style of the time, the clothing. For me, it's like my love for Dick Tracy in the '40s era. I love the aesthetic of that time. It's really cool. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of the stories that I read from the 75 years had to deal with the war effort in the early days. And like the craziness of like the establishment of like the gags are there right away. The early stories, the 40 stories, a bit more, I want to say, complex in a way compared to what came later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because they definitely got into a formula that they didn't go away from too much later on. But in the '40s, they weren't so much formulaic.
They were very much also influenced by screwball comedies.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And they get kind of, you're right, they get kind of complex. It's like the basic story is Archie doesn't have enough money to take Veronica to the nightclub. But then there's a ton of other stuff woven in and out of it. They're raising money for the war effort, and he's working as a waiter at the restaurant that he's taking her to, and this and that. And they get very, very convoluted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's so interesting to see the comics, the Archies, in this manner before they've settled into the formula, because it's a totally different comic. One of the ones I like the most from the early ones, it's from Pep Comics number 46. It's a Christmas story, and Archie has $50 to spend on presents, and he has big plans for what he's going to get everybody, and a character named Gabby, I don't know if she was a regular at the time, she's a gossip, and she tells everyone what Archie's going to get them for Christmas. But through a bunch of, comic circumstances, Archie, loses most of the money before he ever has a chance to buy any of these presents. So he when he shows up with the presents that he does have, everyone's disappointed because he has like these cheap, knick-knack gifts that he got for, the last $2 or $3 that he had left. And they were all expecting these big gifts that Gabby promised. So that was a good one. Of course, Archie, it ends bad for him at the end in that one.
Oh, no, I think no, they forgive him and they do like a Merry Christmas thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then they threw Gabby into a frozen lake and that's how I heard of her again. Like, Gabby, you stink.
Yeah, that should have been the fate of her.
That's what Starchy would have done.
Oh, we'll get to Starchy. So yeah, the character was very popular from the start. There was a radio show that began in 1943 and lasted to 1953, so a whole decade.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I love the golden age of radio, and I was kind of aware of that. I would love to get a hold somehow and listen to some of those. Because I actually there's a Roku channel that just plays the golden age of radio, but you can't pick what
right
what playing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'd love for those to pop up sometime and check those out.
Yeah, there may be some on YouTube. I'm not sure. Like, you never know. These days, it's anything's possible.
Crazy internet.
Yeah, that crazy internet. But yeah, that's impressive run right from the get-go. Any specific stories you want to mention from the 40s, Johnny?
Well, I'll mention that the first one with Veronica. They introduced that the lodges have moved to Riverdale and they're rich, and Mr. Lodge in these isn't just rich; he's got Washington connections. This leads into more war effort stuff, but he's definitely a Roosevelt era rich guy who's in politics, as well as just being the guy who lives in the mansion and hates Archie. But I always liked the one that introduces Mr. Weatherby, because it also introduces Archie's jalopy. And in this one, Archie gets the jalopy. His father hates it. And in these 40s issues, you do see, Archie's dad eventually just becomes lovingly exasperated. But in these, he almost hates his son. He really doesn't like his son at all. He's always ending up in jail because of Archie. There's one where the police are beating him with batons over something that Archie did. He's like, oh, that Archie. But this one, he gets the jalopy, and to pay for it, he decides he's gonna become a cabbie. And he goes to hang out at the train station. He picks up this guy who's new in town. I think we know where this is going. And he gets to a red light, and he's like, I know a shortcut. And they do this great bit of illustration where they have a map, and they show that if he had just waited for the red light, it was a straight line to where they were going. Right. And, of course, he ends up completely lost. He gets it stuck. They end up in the mud. It ends up on a train track, and a train runs it over and destroys the jalopy. And then they have to walk back into town. And, of course, that man, Archie sees him on Monday morning. He is now the principal of the school, the introduction of Mr. Weatherby.
Oh, interesting.
And that's a fun one. And the aforementioned one I really liked, it was Archie is taking Veronica. And this is also the 40s, so he's not just taking her to the chocolate shop. I mean, he's got to get a tuxedo. And they're going out on the town, to see a big band. And they end up going to the place where he's been working as a waiter, and they put him to work. So he's trying to juggle waiting on tables and being a date for Veronica and being a big spender. It's a fun madcap story. And it's just really neat seeing these as they introduce the characters, and you start seeing the evolution of them because we know where they're going.
Yeah.
And they introduce Reggie, gets introduced in the 40s. Later on, in the late 40s, a Big Moose is added. Dilton is added initially. And Dilton Doily, who, of course, is, the genius, the nerd, quote unquote. At first, Dilton, and you see this in some of the because in that 75th anniversary book, they have a bunch of the newspaper strips, which are gorgeous.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. They're so gorgeous.
And Dilton he's not just smart, he's the typical stereotype of a sissy mama's boy. Mm-hmm. He's got the big glasses, but he's wearing short pants with a big, not a bow tie, but like a ribbon tie. Very, very little Lord Fauntleroy.
Yes, yeah.
And they don't like him. No. And he's a prissy mama's boy who's a pain in the ass before they changed him into, a positive character. Right. And I wasn't aware that Dilton had been initially introduced as a foil to Archie and the gang. And so that was neat to find out reading this material. But,
yeah, that is interesting.
And Miss Grundy that eventually gets introduced, and of course Miss Grundy is old, but in these, she's not just old; she's old and snaggletooth. She's like missing. She has like one tooth hanging out over her lip.
I had a few teachers like that in elementary school. Yeah. The art for the daily strips is by Bob Montana, and he's just really like.
It's so good.
Yeah, this was the peak, I think, for him. It's really good because and it's in black and white too, so you get to see like all the lines are perfect, and it's just that was a revelation for me. I loved seeing that because I don't think I'd ever seen like old Archie newspaper strip.
I'd never seen them before, and and just like the strips of the day, they weren't just a gag a day. They were long storylines, a la a Dick Tracy or a Gasoline Alley, excuse me, or whatever. But it was comedic.
Yeah, totally. That's I'd love to have a collection of that stuff. That looked really, really, really good. So there were some other characters, non-Archie universe characters, introduced in the 40s. Katie Keene, the pinup queen. Yeah, the pinup queen. There was quite a bit of her in a few of the collections. Well, in the 75 stories, and I had a few other ones too with her.
Well, and Katie Keene was a model, and she's got a little sister who causes problems and stuff. And the stories are very nothing, but they have these great pinups.
Yeah,
that are beautiful, which are basically look. There was no porn around, okay? These are basically, the equivalent of, the Sears catalog, or no, the National Geographic, the Sears catalog underwear part. These were very useful to young men. I'll just put it that way.
Yes, well, comics appealed to people of all ages back in those days. It's one example. Yes, for sure. I was going to say, how does she rate with Alley Cat Dabra from?
No. She's furry.
Okay, yes, she's got the advantage there.
She has a tail.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about
that's really what these are pinups. That's what pinups were for.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, totally. They were. Yeah, it was that seemed like to be the only reason for the character, basically, was to be the pinup queen.
Because the art was very simplistic in the stories, but the art on those pinups is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. It's very, very good.
Yeah, very detailed. There must have been a real, like, Katie Keene. Or probably several, I guess.
A model,
yeah, models as inspiration because it's very detailed.
But there was a number of other. There was a character called Ginger they introduced.
Yeah, I was going to bring her up.
Okay.
She's like the female Archie, I guess.
Yeah, she's redhead.
Yeah. There was one story where, and we'll get into this later, I think, about the sexuality in Archie. But the one Ginger story in the 75 Years book was quite. There was a lot of titillation in that one.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like I'm gonna fuck the teacher.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there's that one. Yeah, there's one where she ends up. What is it? She's there's a new fad about wearing suspenders, and or like the girls are wearing suspenders, and at one point she gets stuck in a tree with her suspenders, and it rips basically the pants right off, and there's a shot of panties. So that was I don't know, maybe it was somewhat common at the time. The standards. This was pre-comics code, of course, early 50s when they pushed the boundaries quite a bit. And speaking of the comics code, John L. Goldwater was actually like one of the main founders of the comics code and was the president for 25 years of the Comics Code Authority. And fittingly, Archie Comics were the last comic book publisher to carry the code on the front. January 2011. I think DC dropped it, and then like a couple days later, since they were the last one left, Archie just dropped it.
I just want to go back to Ginger real quick because I just opened up the hardcover one to the cover. Not only was she the female Archie, she has the red hair. The cover of the book, on the top it says America's typical teenage girl. Mm-hmm. And that was Archie. And then it says the sweetheart of a nation.
Yes.
Archie was the mirth of the nation. And the font for Ginger is identical to the font for Archie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they milked the Archie character for everything. And they were just getting started in the 40s. It would really pick up in the 50s and 60s.
And that's a perfect opportunity for me to just tell this quick story that I know you'll love, because one of those is Little Archie. And the story I read was that all of the comic book publisher bigwigs, I guess Martin Goodman, whoever, would get together occasionally and have like a poker night. Which I've imagined that room. And they talk about the business and play poker. And that one of them was, since all the Archie titles were, was like, this Archie, Life with Archie, Archie's Pals and Gals, this Archie, they were making fun of him about it. And they're like, hey, all your stuff is like, it's like this Archie, that Archie, Big Archie, Little Archie. And it said he heard Little Archie, and a light bulb went up over his head. Yeah. And hey, that's an idea. And that's how Little Archie got to start at this amazing poker game with just a cigar smoke in that room.
Yeah, I've heard that story too. Yeah, well, we'll get into Little Archie quite soon.
Okay. Sorry to jump the gun.
Oh, no. You got to, when the opportunity arises, of course. Anything else about the 40s Archie you want to cover?
Just when they do get to the art, finding it's the style that would essentially stick with it, it's gorgeous. These stories are gorgeous looking. When all the characters have clearly defined looks and there's a clearly defined style of the characters, and it's more cartoonish, but it's very detailed in a simplistic way. I know that sounds ridiculous, but the colors are vibrant and the lines are perfect. It's like the inking is really well done on these books. They really pop off the page, and this is like post-war, the post-war stuff. Amazingly indicative of its time, and again, looks great because the styles of the 40s were the best.
Yeah, no, it is a very it's one of the best periods for the art, I would say. Was the late 40s, early 50s. Look very, very gorgeous.
And you can see in the ads that they have in some of these stories that this was a huge smash hit. Archie, nobody thought that was going to be anything. It was a backup story about teenagers, and it's superheroes is what sold, and horror. But yet, boom, they changed the name of the company. It becomes the flagship character. It becomes iconic. It's iconic everywhere, not just America, but everywhere.
Yep.
And it's used by the way the tone of these ads is them sort of being like, yeah, we know we're a big thing.
Oh, totally.
Very successful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm far from an expert on the subject. I would be interested to hear someone describe, how it went from just being another teenage character into the Superman of teenage characters.
Well, that brings one more point, and as a lot of people say, is that Archie Comics sort of invented what a teenager is.
Right.
Because that term didn't exist in the 30s.
That's right.
It was teenager was a new concept, that there's teenagers and they've got their own shit that they're into and their own styles and music. And that was a new thing. And Archie reflected it, but I think at the same time also influenced it.
Yeah.
The idea, we'll get that now that we're getting into the 50s, you'll really see that, because that was the era of the teenager.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. The timing was perfect. For 10 years earlier, Archie wouldn't have made a difference or meant anything, really, right? But because
it'd be like, okay, Archie, get a job, man. We're poor.
Stop.
You're gonna have to quit school. You're gonna have to quit school and go work at the mill.
Yeah, it would have been quite depressing, and then not. It wouldn't have been the mirth of a nation. But yes, the timing, as is the case with, so many things and in pop culture and what have you. Timing is everything. And yeah, the timing for Archie to take off was perfect. But yeah, what a success. Yeah, by the end of the 40s, the company was now Archie Comics. It was, that was pretty much, I mean, they still had other characters and such, but it was pretty much the Archie show.
And one of those characters we neglected to mention, because she got her start in the 40s, I believe, late 40s, that was always stuck around, was Little Jinx.
Yes, that's right.
Who was Archie's answer to the whole, there was, well, the best, and the original and best really was Little Lulu.
Mm-hmm.
And those comics remain brilliant. But there was Little Lulu, Little Dot, there was always a little girl who was always getting in trouble, and it was always Lil.
Mm-hmm.
It was Lil Jinx, and she was that. And they evolved her even to the fact that, her dad's a single dad raising Little Jinx. And she never had her own book.
No.
Every digest featured a number of Little Jinxes.
Oh, totally, yeah. Yeah, they went with her for a long time, and she's been, redone and revamped and modernized in recent years. Another one was Super Duck.
Super Duck, yes.
Which was like a Donald Duck ripoff, essentially, but as a standalone character, very good character.
It's bizarre. The stories are very much, they're funny. Because funny animals were a big thing too.
Yeah.
And we've talked about them on the Captain Carrot show. And I've read this one, Super Duck, and it's as bizarre as a Tex Avery cartoon.
Yeah.
The art's a little sketchy, but the story is definitely right out of a Tex Avery cartoon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's very much like a Tex Avery, like a Warner Brothers cartoon, totally. But yeah, very.
Because you'd think it was a superhero spoof. He's Super Duck.
Mm-hmm.
No, they just called him Super Sells comic books.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because he's not a superhero. He's more like a Donald Duck type character getting into adventures just in his neighborhood and his city or wherever town that he lives. But yeah, that I stumbled upon a few of those in the books, and definitely they brought a smile to my face right away. They're timeless. They work even today. The jokes in them are really, really good. So we get into the 50s, and suddenly we have a new artist on the scene, Dan DeCarlo.
Dan DeCarlo.
Who's probably the artist most synonymous with Archie, I would say.
Yes, as far as longevity goes.
Longevity, and just when I think of Archie, I think of DeCarlo's Archie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by the time I got into Archie in the 80s, he was everywhere.
Oh yeah, he did everything.
Yeah.
He helped create a ton of characters that exist to this day.
Yeah.
During that, the 60s boom of Archie. He was responsible for the character design of a lot of very popular characters. And, well, number one, Sabrina.
Yeah.
Which became such a huge hit, not just in the comics and in cartoons and in that TV show that was on forever. And, and he was responsible for that.
Yep, Sabrina and Josie, too.
Josie, of course, Josie, yeah.
Yeah. He was with Atlas Comics and what would become Marvel Comics in the 50s. He did Millie the Model there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for pretty much that whole decade. It's interesting to see that because his style is so distinct. To see it in a different setting, like a non-Archie setting. But yeah, he was doing that, and then he was kind of like he did a lot of like commercial work, like ads and stuff. Like you'll see it in old magazines, and he was very much a freelance kind of guy who did a ton of stuff outside of Archie. But eventually, the Archie stuff sort of definitely is what endured. But at his peak, he was a very prolific artist that contributed to all kinds of different publishers and different types of art. He's great at drawing the women, for sure. Super sexy. Like the first story in the 75 Years book with DeCarlo art is from 1951. It's called Fish for Dinner. And he just, like, right away, like, Betty and Veronica are like, whoa. Amazingly sexy characters in his hands. And, yeah. So a lot of the notes I have for the 50s stories are, there was a lot of Mr. Weatherby stories where, him being tormented by the gang pretty much, provided no end for laughs. There were several ones. One of the ones I really liked, it was called Gripe Sniper. It's from 1955. And in this one, Mr. Weatherby's concerned that, the students, they're gathering at this picnic table by a tree outside of the school. And he's concerned with what's going on there.
Communism?
Could it be? It's 1955. Archie, Jughead is definitely a candidate for communism, I would say. Perhaps influencing the rest of the Riverdale gang. But anyway, Mr. Weatherby gets it in his head that he wants to record these conversations. For the good of the school, of course.
That's what Nixon said.
Yes, because he wants to understand the student gripes. He wants, it's all positive. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Weatherby and Richard Nixon, there's a lot of parallels. So he starts recording it, and he picks up, of course, Archie and Jughead planning on skipping school to go ice skating early in the morning. Like, I don't think teenagers ever did that in real life ever. They got up before dawn. I don't think so.
It was code.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's the funny thing is that, Mr. Weatherby thinks he's going to surprise them. But of course, at the last minute, Archie and Jughead didn't go there because because the ice wasn't hard enough for skating yet. But Mr. Weatherby goes there, of course, and waits, and then eventually, goes through the ice, and it ends with him in bed, with a cold, and all that. So that was a funny one.
Then he catches pneumonia and dies.
And that was the last appearance. The last appearance of the golden age, Mr. Weatherby. Yeah.
Replaced him with a clone. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That's Marvel in the 90s. I'm getting confused.
You're getting ahead of yourself. Another good one from the 50s is when Betty decides to join the baseball team. Did you read this one? It's called.
Yeah, that was a really good one. I like that.
Spoil Sport. Where, of course, she wants to join the team to be closer to Archie. And this plays up on Betty's tomboy character. She's great at baseball, of course, though. So great that in the ironic twist, like, she bumps Archie from the team, takes his place. And this, of course, allows Archie to have more time with Veronica, and so it all backfires. But yeah, I really like that one. That was a DeCarlo one, too, and really great art with the baseball sequences. I really like that. So yeah, maybe this is a good time to get into the Little Archie stuff, since this was when the character debuted. 1956. Had his own comic right away, and with art by Bob Bowling, who is still alive today, and was actually, I don't know if he's still doing Archie stories, but I think as of 2 years ago, he was still drawing Archie stories. Believe it or not, I think he's, late 80s, early 90s. He had a very distinct style.
Oh, yeah.
And the Little Archie stories, their main charm with him especially is that they were, adventure-based and definitely not, just dependent on gags. They would get into all kinds of, different characters and have this, really interesting self-contained universe with unique characters that wouldn't be in the other Archie stories or the main Archie stories, although some of them would later. Like, for example, they introduced Polly and Chick. Here's another Chick. Polly and Chick Cooper, who were Betty's older siblings.
And Polly.
Yeah, and for fans of the new Riverdale TV show, Polly is a character in that. And Polly eventually would become a character in the main Archie continuity, but originally she was just in Little Archie Comics. And they were teenagers, and everyone else was, of course, children. And, they... and there was Fangs Fogarty, the bully.
I remember Fangs. He was the bully.
Yeah. Who would usually eventually get the best of Archie. Usually it was Archie and Reggie, like, teaming up on him, doing some cruel joke of some sort or another on him. Quite cruel, actually.
Yeah, they were making fun of the fact that he was poor and couldn't afford orthodonture.
Yeah, and I was rereading some of those the other day, and it was like the end was usually Archie and Reggie would be in bandages and casts and with black eyes. That would be the last panel after Fangs finally got his hands on him. So kind of a bully with a twist in that he was the sympathetic character in the economy between them.
Yeah, I loved the whole the conceit of they're all little kids. They've known each other forever, and it's funny because they call him Little Archie.
Yeah,
but it's not Little Betty and Little Jughead and Little Veronica. It's they're all just their names. He's Little Archie. That's what his name is to differentiate him from Archie, I guess. I don't know, or that's the title of the book. God damn it! And but you're right. I remember a story that I got. And here's the thing with Archie Comics. A lot of times you remember stories based on what was going on in your life when you read it. And for me, we were on one of our annual drives from New Jersey to Kentucky for the holidays. And we pulled into a Howard Johnson's on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, to get hot dogs, and continue on our way. And there was Archie Digest, and my mom bought me one, and there was a really good Little Archie story. And like you said, it was an adventure. They were at camp, and there was a ghost. It was supposed to be like an ancient Indian burial ground sort of thing, and of course it was a Scooby-Doo type of story. And that really sat with me because I just remember where I was when I read it and what was going on. And I think a lot of these stories hold an emotional attachment for you because of that reason, rather than like, boy, that one really got to me. It's Archie.
Yeah, definitely the Little Archie ones they had an emotional impact to them. They'd often end with like a real, like sort of pulling on your heartstrings sort of ending.
Well, and then I want to mention the story. I don't know if you read this one. It was in the hardcover one. It was one of the very first Little Archies. And the art's very different. They're still finding it. And it's heavily shaded. And the story is just that Little Archie wants to learn judo.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And his mom doesn't want him to do it because she thinks it's just being a ruffian. And his dad's like, no. And they give the whole thing, no, it's the gentle way. And she has to take him to his meet, and he loses. And the kid's dark as fuck. They're on their way home, and apparently they're walking down the same alley where Bruce and Martha Wayne were killed.
Yes.
I didn't know Riverdale had a crime alley. And a mugger comes, tries to grab her purse, and whacks her on the head. Whap! And Little Archie goes, nobody hits my mother. And it almost gets to you, like, Jesus Christ. And Little Archie uses his judo on a grown man, mind you, and kicks the shit out of him and has him like in a wrist lock until the cops get there.
Yeah.
And that was like the lesson of the story and the joke at the end. He's like, "Why are you sad, little Archie?" He's like, "Oh, I lost the tournament."
Yeah.
And that was the joke. And it's a very strange story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's all silent when he gets into the fight scene.
The fight's all silent, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, because they would do that years later for like in Daredevil, like Frank Miller Daredevil, and
That's where he ripped them off.
yeah, he ripped off little Archie.
That's where he got
But yeah, I remember that one was actually in one of the digests or little Archies that I had as a kid, because I immediately remember that when I saw it. It was the judo fight scene in that one. But yeah, it's called The Gentle Way. That was the title.
The Gentle Way. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
The title of the story. But yeah, that's a Bob Bowling one. Yeah, and there was a lot of science fiction in the Bowling ones too. There were aliens called Abercrombie and Stitch. They were reoccurring characters.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, they would go out into outer space all the time. There was the main villain of this universe was Mad Dr. Doom, was the name of the character. He was a green-skinned mad professor, mad scientist, and he had an assistant named Chester, who was like a juvenile delinquent, like a stereotypical juvenile delinquent. And they would be, there was numerous adventures involving them and Archie and the gang. Let's see. Oh, there was a gang called the Southside Serpents. That came from Little Archie.
Oh my goodness! Really?
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
But oh wow! Well, we'll get into that when we talk about Riverdale. But holy mackerel!
Yeah, I know, because there's another thing that they've put into the Riverdale universe. I think the Southside Serpents gang may have got into the main continuity at some point too. But yeah, and another reoccurring story or trope of the Little Archie comics was them trying to catch the pearliest pike, a fish that they would never catch. They would set out and go on the lake and try and catch it, but in the end, of course, the fish would always escape, and that was usually the final panel, was the fish swimming away.
I don't remember any of those.
No, you don't remember those?
No.
I remember definitely a few of those. It was every once in a while they would go back and try and get the pike.
The fish was a metaphor for adulthood.
Yes. But by the mid-'60s, an artist named Dexter Taylor took over on Little Archie. And this was, when they reprinted the digest, or when they put out the digest in the 80s, most of the Little Archie stories were Dexter Taylor ones. And they were more lighthearted in tone. They still had a lot of adventure to them.
Those are probably the ones that I remember the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because this 50s ones, I do remember now, the more sci-fi elements.
Yeah.
But now that you mentioned it, I'm like, he had a very distinctive art style as well.
Yeah.
It was all about big heads.
Yeah. Okay. Big heads. Yeah, very big. Exactly. Yeah, big heads. And the eyes, big eyes.
Yeah.
I as a kid, I found it very charming. I was very attracted to his art style. But as you get older and compare the two, you see Bowling was definitely a more sophisticated artist. But no, Taylor, I mean, the guy, he did a ton of Little Archie comics. Just, tons from the 60s into the 80s. And a lot of them were quite good, too. He could do the comedy, but he could also do the adventure stuff as well. And, as a kid, I just devoured the Little Archie comics and loved them.
Well, they were fun because they were such a departure. Mm-hmm. So you had the characters that you knew and loved being done completely differently, and again, lots more adventure and other things. They could do whatever they wanted with these characters. There were so many Archie comic books, and they were all teenagers. This was different.
Yeah. I think it appealed to my love of superheroes. Like they were the Archie comics that were the most similar to the Marvel comics or the.
I agree.
Yeah, because they had the adventure stories, and love Little Archie. Definitely something I'm going to continue to be on the lookout for as the years go forward. So anything else from the 50s you want to tackle specifically, Johnny?
Well, just that I'm just flipping open my book here. They did do, I'm sorry, this the 60s. Apologize here. You started to see an art style that was, how do I describe it? Very complicated, but lightly inked. If that the line work is very thin. It's so hard to describe it. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
And that's Dan DeCarlo.
Mm-hmm.
And you start seeing that goes right through into the early 70s, and that's when Jughead really started becoming a great character. Because in the 40s and the early 50s, sometimes Jughead was kind of obnoxious, and he was just sort of, there. This is where you really see Jughead becoming like the breakout character. I always looked at Jughead as like, in every sitcom, when there's that one supporting character that everyone likes better than all the main characters,
mm-hmm.
That's Jughead. And in the 50s, that's when Jughead became that character, I think.
Yeah.
And a lot more Mr. Lodge, a lot more of the Mr. Lodge-Archie relationship is established.
Yeah.
In the first. And then also you get to the fact that, Veronica's mother, I don't know where they keep her. But she's not around all that often.
No, not at all. Yeah.
They eventually bring her back, and she becomes a character, Hermione. But for the longest time, it just seems like that Mr. Lodge and Smithers are just having a very nice little relationship with each other.
That's so true. Because, with the Riverdale show, I was thinking, did they really have a, Veronica's mother character much?
They did. I think in the late 70s or into the 80s, they started showing her again, and she has white hair. She's very matronly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, like
but
stereotypical sort of aristocratic lady.
Yeah, she didn't appear very often, but for the longest, when I was growing up, it was just like single father.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And Smithers.
Smithers.
Nothing gave Smithers more joy than when Mr. Lodge told him they could throw Archie out.
That's right.
Which, by the way, that whole Fresh Prince of Bel-Air joke, with the butler throwing out the one dude, his friend, that's right out of Archie. That's Smithers throwing Archie out the fucking front door by lifting him up by the seat of his pants and literally throwing him out the front door. I always laughed at that joke.
Right. Yeah, no, that was
Get out of here. But in the 50s, you start seeing with it where, again, it represented the 40s well. They like big bands and they like jazz.
Mm-hmm.
In the 50s, rock and roll starts coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's represented in the stories. The chocolate shop is totally established as almost its own character.
Right.
They hang out at Pop's Chocolate Shop, and that's just like the Happy Days gang hangs out at Arnold's. That's what that is.
Yeah.
And I always thought you'd see Pop, and I was like, is Archie's dad living a double life?
Yeah, they're the same. Yeah.
Because all he does is curl his hair and curl his mustache, and he's exactly the same.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
but then speaking of the 50s, we all know, we've talked about this, hard time for comic books.
That's right.
EC goes under. We've talked about what the Code did, how superhero comics died. Timely almost barely hung on.
Mm-hmm.
DC hung on with their core three. Archie was plugging right along and just getting more and more popular.
Yeah.
the comic book backlash of the 50s did not affect Archie one iota.
No.
It just got, because they could always look at, well, ours are wholesome.
Yeah.
You can't say anything about our books. Ours are wholesome.
That's true, because they never jumped on the horror craze or anything like that. They just, they had their own thing going, and they were completely, basically untouchable as far as any criticism went. I mean, I don't think Frederick Wertham ever referenced Archie Comics in Seduction of the Innocent. I may be mistaken.
Like what he's like, clearly Jughead is gay.
I mean, he could have had a field day with it if he wanted to, but
it's like it's like the scene from Chasing Amy, where the two characters are arguing. The one character is like saying that Archie and Jughead are gay, and that Jughead is the king in the relationship because he wears the crown.
Yeah.
That Frederick Wertham could have had, again, like you said, a field day.
Yeah, but no, the covers, didn't have the violence and the blood and all that sort of stuff.
And clearly Archie is in a polyamorous relationship with these two women. Big moose, I think we know what that means.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, I mean, speaking of EC Comics, I think this is a perfect opportunity to discuss Mad Comics number 12. Yes, comics, folks. This was before Mad became a magazine, because, well, they basically became a magazine to avoid the comics code, right?
Right.
It was the only thing to survive EC. Eventually, by the end of the 50s, everything else was gone. But originally, it
was William Gaines telling the government to go fuck themselves. Basically.
They tried a few other magazines, well, with the horror and stuff, with text and illustrations, but that they sank like a stone. But yeah, originally Mad was a comic book, just like all the others for EC. And the creative team behind it all originally was Harvey Kurtzman, one of the true greats of comic books, and Will Elder was one of them. Well, there's several different artists, like a lot, all like Wallywood was in on it. Jack Davis, like most
Dan Severn.
The Dan the V Severn.
Yeah, Dan the V Severn was John Severn.
Yeah. John Severn. The whole lineup of the EC bullpen was involved, but Will Elder was, him and Harvey Kurtzman would form quite a partnership over the years. And for Mad number 12, we have them together doing Starchy. The early Mads, parodied mostly other comic books, right?
Mm-hmm. Mainly other comic books, some movies.
Yeah.
TV. TV was later, to be perfectly honest, a little bit. And but the bread and butter was spoofing other comic books, yes.
Yeah, in the first couple of years. So we have Starchy. This one's quite hilarious.
It's so funny.
So Jughead is Bottleneck in this one.
And instead of first of all, they're juvenile delinquents.
Yes.
Okay. They're total juvenile. But instead of the crown, he's wearing a broken vase. Because he's going to cut you.
Yeah, well, they're beyond juvenile delinquents. They're basically gangsters.
Yeah.
Their racket is selling school passes to the freshmen.
Yeah, Shane.
And they've cornered the market on that. But Reggie, who's Wedgie, is trying to muscle in on the school pass racket. It's hilarious. Like, it starts with Starchy and Bottleneck. Like, the first image you have them is like sullen teenagers smoking cigarettes in the school. Mr. Weatherby is Mr. Weather Not. And he's shown lusting after, now we have Veronica, who's Salonica.
And Biddy.
And Betty is Biddy. And Mr. Weathernot is drooling over them. So Starchy comes into Weathernot's office, and basically, forces him to pass him and Bottleneck on with some test or whatever.
He mutilates him.
Yeah, by physically beating the shit out of him.
Because you just see Bottleneck like outside.
Watching the door. Yeah.
And watching the door, and you hear, you read, and when Starchy comes out, he's throwing what appears to be parts of intestines away. He just sliced them up. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Bottleneck has stubble on his face, like 5 o'clock shadow. And then they go to Starchy's home, which is like a low class New York apartment, basically, or Manhattan Fleabag apartment. And his parents are like, the lowest of the low.
Yeah, and the running joke is, I'm a typical teenager.
Yes.
So they're screws like, what are you doing dragging mud into this house like a typical teenager in a typical teenager house? And the father's like, I'm a typical teenager father, and I don't. And then it's just them yelling, and it's like, shut up. Everyone who says shut up, you shut up. It's so. The art is so funny. It's not just what's going on. The art is hilarious.
Yeah.
And it isn't even like, oh, this was funny for the day. This is funny and fucking subversive now.
Oh, totally. Yeah, Elder, I mean, he was the master of like including so much detail and little jokes in every panel.
Yeah, one of the best jokes in it. And Biddy and Salonica are fucking stacked in this.
Yeah.
And Biddy's throwing herself at Starchy, and he wants nothing to do with her. Yeah. And Salonica doesn't want anything to do with him, and he's like, oh, Salonica. And Bottleneck's like, well, why not Biddy? They look exactly like, he says they're drawn exactly alike. And he goes, oh, you're nuts. And they show them next to each other, and they're totally identical, except one has blonde hair and one has brunette hair, which is always the thing.
Yeah.
They do pretty much look exactly alike in most of the comics over the years. They eventually change them a little, but generally they're just, one's blonde and one's brunette, and they're identical twins.
Yeah. No, I loved how it's right at the beginning where Biddy's coming on to Starchy pretty hard, and he grabs like a lion tamer's like a chair and whip to keep her back, damn you, or whatever.
Yeah, all she wants is some of that Starchy dick, and he ain't having it.
No, he's got much more important things to deal with, crime syndicates and all that. Eventually, they take Wedgie for like a ride, a gangster.
They strip him naked.
A gangster-style ride where he's let out of a moving car, and presumably he's dead after that.
And here's the joke on that one. Like, oh, no, we're going to let you go.
Yeah.
And they open the door. And he goes, oh, thanks, guys. And he gets out. And the next panel, they're just laughing. Yeah. And they're like going, did you see the look on his face when we picked him up? Did you see the look on his face when we stripped him naked? Did you see the look on his face when he realized we didn't stop the car?
Yeah. Yeah. So cynical. And then Bottleneck's revealed. He takes off a mask and reveals that he's Edward G. Robinson.
It's Edward G. Robinson, Shane.
And it was all a big plan. It was a double cross to take the hall pass racket out from under Starchy
and frame Starchy
that's right, and he's sent to prison. And that's the end of it.
The last shot, he's an old man serving life. And he's like, and they keep making jokes about, like, because Archie, the side of his head is just the crisscross lines.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, the crisscross lines are going gray. And he's an old man, and his last thoughts are, he's like, and Biddy was throwing herself at me. And he's beating his head against the wall. She was throwing herself at me. What was I thinking?
Yeah.
It's so funny, and I remember reading this in a Mad paperback. I think it was a paperback.
Yeah.
And
paperback.
That was when I first got to read the classic Mad stories like this and Super Duper Man.
Yep.
And I remember I was young, and I didn't find it as funny as I do now. I almost found it disturbing. So I was like, yeah, because I was like, as a kid, I was like, this is fucked up.
Yeah, I felt the same way where, Archie's smoking and yeah, it wasn't right at all.
But you read it now and it's a comic masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff. The art is amazing. I have all these old Mads, the first 100 issues all saved on a disc that I've dipped into here and there over the years, but this is making me want to really get into them because they were just really, the original Harvey Kurtzman years of Mad are one of the, the greatest runs in comic book history.
Yeah. A quick aside, in later years in the 60s, they did do, I remember reading this one, that's when Peanuts was at its height, and they did What If the Peanuts Were All Now Teenagers? And
yeah.
it's just fucking sex jokes.
Of course. Oh, Mad. There's a topic for a future show, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But sticking with the satire and sticking with Kurtzman and Elder, 8 years later, 1962, by this time they had started a magazine called Help, which was a parody magazine, more like a National Lampoon than a Mad, I would say. Or if you're familiar with The Realist, which was a very controversial American satire magazine from the time. It was more like that, with a lot of text pieces, but also comic strips too.
And Kurtzman, at least I know, went to work doing lots of stuff for Playboy.
Yes.
At the time.
Yeah, he would eventually do, of course, Little Annie Fanny, also with Will Elder, for a long, long stretch. Yeah, well, Kurtzman, the thing was that he lost control of Mad, had a falling out with Gaines, left EC Comics, and then hooked up with Hugh Hefner, who was a fan of his work, and they did, Hefner funded a magazine, or published a magazine called Trump, that only lasted a couple issues. And then...
Let's hope that happens here.
Yes. And then Kurtzman kind of did a bunch of like startup things for the next few years, and Help was kind of his last gasp at doing a monthly magazine before he kind of retired and then became an art teacher in New York, and then would be kind of rediscovered years later, right? You know, Crumb and all the underground comics guys, loved him. And that brought him back years later.
Oh, well, you remember we've talked about how you and I were so nerdy when we were kids. We would read the Overstreet Guide.
Yeah,
when it came out.
Yeah.
And you remember any Harvey Kurtzman art or mention? Apparently, he wrote some article that got printed in a few books. Those were all major points of issues of back issues of comics that were bumped in price.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Harvey Kurtzman.
Yeah, by the 80s, he was recognized as, one of the true icons of comics. So anyway, in Help number 13, February 1962, he'd created a character with Elder called Goodman Beaver, who was basically a precursor to Little Annie Fanny. If you know the Little Annie Fanny character, this was the male version of the naive individual who's in a world of sex and vice. And I was, I'd heard of these, but I'd never read them before. And so the parody of Archie's called Goodman Goes Playboy. And this was starchy with no restrictions at all. Because this magazine, there was no, comics code, there was nothing. It was basically, like a Playboy.
Yeah.
So did you read this?
Yeah, I read it, and one other thing it doesn't share with Starchy is it's not funny.
It's not like Starchy for sure.
It's definitely worth reading because it's fucking weird, but the gist is, the Goodman character is like, hey guys, and it's so hard to even explain, but apparently, Archie has a lot of money, and he's living just total decadent lifestyle with orgies and cars and shit like that. And they go to the orgy party, and Goodman's just like, well, wait a minute. What do you mean you and Veronica are living together? Are you married? Oh, no. Oh, and Jughead has knocked up Betty.
Yes.
And they go to the orgy, and Goodman's all just like, you've got a great library. I'm going to read these books. And Archie's trying to get him to like, hey, come on, man, get some pussy. And then he keeps comparing it to ancient Rome.
Yeah. And
then, of course, it ends like Nero because it all burns. And Archie burns the place down. It says that he had sold his soul to the devil for all this. It ends with them like, oh, Goodman was the last one to see Archer. I think it was Archer.
Yes, Archer.
And he reveals to him what it is, and they're like, what? And then they show this very Semitic-looking man in the corner who's supposed to be the devil. And there hasn't been a more anti-Semitic version of devils. This is where Mel Gibson got the idea for all the Jews in Passion of the Christ, because this is just the biggest hook-nosed, right. Just like, oh, it's the devil, I guess. It's and he's offering a deal as well. And they're like, oh, who would do such a thing? And then this was funny. The line of people who are like, where do I sign up for this deal? And it's all these old comic book characters.
Yeah.
Like the Gumps are there, and Gasoline Alley, Superman.
Yep, Jigs. Mutt and Jeff.
Yeah, Mutt and Jeff are there. And I'm going, okay, this is a statement on, number one, first I thought they were doing a little dig on Hefner.
Right.
And then I realized, no, he's doing a straight dig on the fact that Archie Comics have been around forever, and why don't they go away? He must have made a deal with the devil.
Right.
And so they're showing all these other characters who want to make this deal with the devil too, so they'll never go away.
Right.
So I think it was more of a statement about the comic book industry, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
But as far as laughs go, I'll take Starchy.
Oh, for sure. No, I mean, this is famous because it was so controversial that Archie Comics ended up getting it banned, and so, well, they I guess there was a lawsuit, and they ended up getting the rights to it. Like they suppressed it, and for years.
Oh wow, didn't know that.
Yeah, you couldn't see it anywhere until finally the copyright ran out or whatever. Now it's a public domain thing, so anyone can see it. But yes, it was so controversial, and Archie Comics was so powerful, they were able to basically censor this.
Well, I mean,
it's a pretty thinly veiled, like the characters' names are barely different than the actual characters.
Right, and it's one of those things. I can see both points, because of course freedom of speech and everything. Yeah. But at the same time, I could see them being like, you know what? We don't want our character in a fucking Roman orgy who sold his soul to a devil. Yeah. And of course, I understand it, but like I said, then that implication I just thought of, that was true. That was an attack on the company, and they're like, oh, fuck you, but I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, no, Kurtzman flew too close to the sun
a little bit
that time around, and it wouldn't be too long after that I think Help itself went belly up, and like I said, Kurtzman kind of retired from comics for quite some time after that. But yeah, it's a fascinating snapshot of a different time, different era, and like Johnny, you were able to sum up the whole comic book characters and the credit, like the the whole comment on the comic book industry is very interesting. But yes, it's not particularly funny. It's more like a shock value type strip.
Oh, it's and knowing more details that you just explained, and then also coming to, I'm like, okay, so that's what he was going for. It's an amazing commentary. The art's really great. Mm-hmm. It's amazing commentary. It is just funny to be like, okay, who am I going to go after? Archie. Fuck him.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, like I said about Goldwater being the president of the Comics Code Authority, so that probably played a big part in it.
That's right. I bet you. That's yes.
And,
of course.
And what that did to EC Comics, of course, and put a lot of people in the comic book industry out of work.
And going back to what we just mentioned, the industry almost died except for you. Would you sell yourself to the devil?
Yeah. So now it's a brilliant masterpiece of criticism, actually. Anyway,
I've come around on it now.
Yes, we talked our way through it and kind of realized what we had just read.
Well, and to be honest, that's exactly what just happened, because I reread that earlier tonight, because I read it when you first sent it to me, and I was going like, okay, it is what it is. But during our conversation, I'm like, oh, that's what they were going for. Oh, yeah, it is. It needs to be seen.
Yeah, no, I recommend anyone interested check it out. It's on Wikipedia. Well, you just have to Google it, and it'll come up as like a Wikipedia sort of, not a page, but like it's part of like an archive on Wikipedia. Well, okay, I think this is a good time to take a break. We're about, I think, halfway through, and stick around, listen to some new ads for Pro Wrestling Only. Place to Be Nation.
Pop.
There may be a new Pop ad. Pop. I'm not sure, but definitely a new ad for Pro Wrestling Only and a new ad for Place to Be Nation, I believe. And yes, we'll be right back.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, pro wrestling announcer Kevin Kelly here. I want to make sure you are all subscribed to all the great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. It's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, which of course includes the full archives of the Kevin Kelly Show, the Place to Be Nation pod feed, and the Pro Wrestling Only feed. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And be sure to give Justin your true thoughts. I mean, don't hold back. After all, he is kind of a jerk. Just listen to Scott.
Place to Be Nation's JT Rosero here, and I want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlayStation.com, and we now offer them to you on two great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, you can check out Scott Criscolo and me on the Mothership, the Place to Be podcast, with our famous Vintage Vault pay-per-view reviews. PTBN also covers current day wrestling with clotheslines and headlines, main event, Lucha Afterground, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction shows. And we relive wrestling's past with our monthly pay-per-view rewind series led by Ben Morse, the Our Vantage Point podcast, which features a potpourri-style look at wrestling history, and Survey Says, a fun look back at the good, bad, and ugly of WCW. And on our very popular Place to Be Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as the Glenn Butler podcast, Our Spectacular, Rank and File, PTBN Dadcast, NBA Team, and Lucha Undead, as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans with hard-traveling fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversations, Geek and Sassy, and the Imaginary Stories. You can find all these current shows plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All these shows, plus others available at PlayStation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus tournaments and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlayStation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, thehistoryofwrestling.com, and Scott Keith's blog of Doom. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
The Pro Wrestling Only Podcast Network, subscribe on iTunes, or on Android with your favorite podcast app. Established in 2013, the Pro Wrestling Only Podcast Network is committed to providing unique takes on the rich and diverse medium of professional wrestling, focusing on its history and global impact, but also exploring the vibrant contemporary scene. The roll call includes Space City, an NWA on-demand podcast. This Week in Wrestling. Stacey and Elliott's Bogus Journey. The Super Apuestas podcast. The Military Industrial Suplex. Strong Style History. Pureheart, and Psychology is Dead. Also, from the archives, the full catalog of great shows that provided a fresh look at classic wrestling, including Where the Big Boys Play, Titans of Wrestling, Tag Teams Back Again, Letters from Kayfabe, Wrestling Culture, Pro Wrestling Super Show, Goodwill Wrestling, and many, many others. The Pro Wrestling Only Podcast Network. Only the best.
All right, so we're back here. We're now into the 1960s. We touched on Sabrina and Josie being introduced. That was, right at the beginning of the 60s, 1962 and 63. Respectively, Dan DiCarlo creations, great staying power for those characters, and eventually they became, like standalone characters.
And Josie at first was just Josie.
Yep.
She was just, it was like another ginger.
Basically.
It wasn't Josie and the Pussycats quite yet.
No, not until, I want to say, the very end of the 60s. Yeah. They do that. Yeah, no, she basically was Ginger. It was just a female Archie. Let's see. So in the 60s, we get, there's a comic called Life with Archie. That's actually maybe my favorite of them all, because a lot of the stories from the digest in the 80s that I really enjoyed, and the most memorable ones, came from Life with Archie. And Life with Archie was a different book, centered around, adventure stories, a lot like Little Archie in a way. And just all kinds of interesting takes on the character, basically.
They had chapters.
Yes, longer stories, chapters. That's one of the things that appealed to me reading them, is that they stood out from the, disposable 5-page gag Archie strips. These were, a lot more, creativity was put into these. And they came up with different concepts over the years that ran through the stories. And by the mid-'60s, and we touched on this right at the beginning, with like the superhero revival, the Silver Age of comics was in full swing by now. Batman was on TV and doing really, was super successful.
Huge.
Yeah, huge. So Archie got back into the comic book business, and one way they did it was with the Mighty Crusaders, like we talked about. But another way they did it was with the Pureheart, the powerful character, which basically turned Archie into a superhero. And you also had Captain Hero, who was Jughead as a superhero, and Super Teen, who was Betty as a superhero.
And the villain.
And there was, let's see.
It's Reggie. He was Evil Heart.
Oh, yes, Evil Heart. Yes, of course. And there was other villains, too. The one that I remember the most is the Tar Man, or I don't know if it was Tar Man, something like that. His power was shooting tar out of his fingertips. And I just remember him or Pureheart and Evil Heart get stuck in this big web of tar, and they're basically teaming up in that one. But it was pretty popular. Like, it took over Life with Archie for quite a while, and then it was spun off into its own comic book. There was a Pureheart comic that lasted 6 issues. It was kind of like a very short-lived fad, as kind of the whole superhero craze was at that time. A couple of years, right? Like 65 to 67, I would say.
Pretty much. We've talked about Spider-Man, managed to last, but yeah, and it was one of those neat things about Archie, was that they did have their finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
Of what was going on. There's Beatles stuff. There's the superhero stuff, of course. Pureheart, which a lot of people, those stories are a lot of fun because they're just silly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then they're a lot of fun. The art's really good.
Yeah.
It's simplistic, but it's perfect. Another thing that was huge in the early 60s was the spy thing. James Bond was a huge hit. We got The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And we had Get Smart as a spoof, and there's a ton. So they did also The Man from Riverdale.
Yes.
Where they're secret agents. And the neat thing about the secret agent stories are they're totally grown up. They're teenagers, but they're in cool suits and have cool cars, and they're doing spy shit. And they're behaving like cool spies. They're not behaving like, Jughead and Archie, are put in this situation.
Yeah.
They're really good at this. They're really good spies. They're a lot of fun to read.
They are, and it's amazing how it all fits. It's like it's all fine. It's Archie and Jughead doing this totally different, interpretation of their character, but it just totally, it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel really out of place at all.
Well, it's because you can do anything with the characters. There's no continuity in Archie.
True.
It's not like I could just see people today going, "Whoa, how come Archie couldn't get out of this fix with Mr. Weatherby? He's got superpowers." No, that's a different thing.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
It's true. Yeah, no.
As a creator, that must give you so much freedom. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, basically. And speaking of the creators behind both Pureheart and the Man from Riverdale were the team of writer Frank Doyle and artist Bob White. I think they did basically Life with Archie exclusively for quite some time. Yeah, I know there's a collection of the Pureheart stories out there that I may have to order, because when I was in Victoria at the comic book store, that's what I was specifically looking for. I wanted the Pureheart collection, because as a kid, they were reprinted randomly in the digests. Every couple of years you would suddenly have a Pureheart story out of nowhere. It left you wanting more, right? So, well,
especially because, as we've talked about, superheroes were our number one love. And I remember that was when I'd see those Purehearts, I'd be like, Archie? I like Archie. I love Archie. He's a superhero? Give me some,
Yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah. And there was even a little Pureheart. They did...
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. There was... And they reprinted some of those, because I remember... stumbling upon them in digest too. But it was a short-lived craze. The first Pureheart was from Life with Archie number 42, which was dated October 1965, and basically by the summer of 67, all the Pureheart stuff was gone. All the Man from Riverdale stuff was gone too. It debuted a little later, January 1966. And it was all done by 67. And both were replaced in Life with Archie by the Archies. Yes, Life with Archie number 60, April 1967, sees the debut of the Archies band, which would become one of the more iconic parts of the whole Archie universe.
It is funny. They're like, okay, here's the trends of the 60s.
Yeah.
Superheroes. Okay, it lasted a little bit. And, okay, let's do the spy thing. Now, what else are these kids into nowadays? Oh, yeah, rock and roll.
Yeah, one that really had legs.
This has legs, and Archie and the gang suddenly have musical talent.
Yes. So 1967. There was a story in the 75 Years book from 1964 where they touch on the Beatles craze and with the Beatles wigs, and it ends, of course, with Mr. Weatherby actually, he wants a wig because he's bald, so it ends with him gathering all the different wigs and then making his own wig out of all the hair.
They could have done a crossover with Marvel, when the Human Torch and the Thing.
Yes.
Did the Beetle Wigs gag.
The Yancey Street gang gag on Bashful Benjamin. Yeah.
But, just about fantasy booking, the Yancey Street gang versus the South Side Serpents.
There was a crossover. Well, eventually they would do, of course, Archie meets the Punisher.
That's one of the funniest things I've
in the 90s, which I don't know how that came about. I remember when it came out, it was so unbelievable.
Well, just a little side note. At that time, it was the period of time where comic book companies doing intercompany crossovers was a huge thing. Everyone was doing it. And so they're like, Archie and the Punisher. And I remember going, what? And I bought that one, and it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I had it too. I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah. Apparently, Archie is the spitting image of an escaped killer who looks just like Archie, and the Punisher is on his trail, and hijinks ensue.
That's right. Have they done any other team-ups or crossovers? Marvel and Archie?
I read about one other, and I can't recall what it was, but the Punisher one's the most famous.
Yeah.
Because it was the most bonkers idea.
Yeah, totally. Ever. Exactly. That's the beauty of it. Yeah, it was the most bonkers thing. There was an earlier story in the 60s where Betty got into the beatnik movement. Did you read that one where she's...
Yeah. And of course, it's all about the fact that she doesn't wash.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Right. And she eventually, drags Archie and Reggie into it, too, and it's all, Veronica's totally disgusted by this whole thing. And finally she sends Jughead in, and then the joke is Jughead comes out and he thinks they were making fun of him. Right.
Because he's a hipster.
Because he's the beatnik.
Dude, come on, Maynard... The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis.
Yeah.
Very popular TV show. They made a comic book out of it, even. DC published it. Dobie Gillis is just Archie. And Maynard G. Krebs is Jughead. Yeah, so it shows more of the influence of Archie. Because I just thought of them fucking, Jughead's a beatnik. Who else was? Maynard. It's the same relationship. That whole show was just fucking Archie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, big time ripoff. Yeah. Well, Jughead. No, he's definitely a symbol for being a beatnik.
Why do you think he eats so much? He's got the munchies, dude.
Exactly.
Come on.
And his eyes, the slits and everything.
His eyes are always slits, and he's super hungry all the time. and when no one's around, he can talk to his dog, man.
Yeah. That's awesome. So back to the Archies. The team at Doyle and White were responsible for the Archies, the first Archie in the comics, but then it really, it took on a life of its own. And what happened was the man behind the Monkees, Don Kirshner, came up with the concept for basically a real Archies band. That became pop stars in the late 60s.
Now I always thought that the song came from the cartoon, but that the cartoon came later.
Well, they were tied together. It was basically the cartoon was a vehicle to sell the albums or sell the records.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mutual, relationship sort of deal. Yeah, because the cartoon came out, the Archie show in 1968 on CBS, and basically, it featured all the music from the Archies, and they had a pretty extensive catalog of songs. About a month ago, I downloaded the complete recordings on Spotify, because Spotify is the most amazing thing ever. And I was...
you know what? None of the Archies are getting any royalties from those Spotify sons of bitches. I mean, look, poor Betty. Was it Betty who only played the tambourine, or Veronica?
Veronica, yeah. Betty was on the keyboard.
Oh, that's right. Betty was jamming on the keyboards. Veronica just had to be there to shake her ass and hit a tambourine.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, Jughead was on drums.
Of course.
Archie was lead guitar, and I guess Reggie was on bass.
Reggie was on bass, because Reggie brings that fucking low bottom sound.
But they had some pretty good songs, like Outside of Sugar Sugar, which everyone knows, and it was a #1 hit.
And it's a great song.
Yeah.
It's pure bubblegum pop of the 60s, but the best of it. And there were some talented people, like in those studio musicians who were the Archies.
Yeah.
Very talented. They still tour.
Oh, wow.
They still go out and tour with like Flo and Eddie from the Turtles and stuff, and they do stuff. They're a very talented group of musicians.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm partial to Jingle Jangle myself.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's my favorite Archie's song. But yeah, they would. This was the start of not only the band, but the cartoon survived for quite some time. Yeah.
See, I growing up in the part of America I did, and we had UHF television, and when you were discovering and trying to find stuff, and one of the things I loved was the Archie cartoon was in reruns, and I loved it. And it was all just short gags. Mm-hmm. It was nothing but short gags. I'm sure it doesn't hold up.
No.
But when I was 8, 9, oh, God, I love that show. And it was all framed around the music and short gags. And it's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
At least I remember having fun with it. And it spun off Sabrina, which therefore spun off one of my all-time favorite cartoons, the Groovy Ghoulies. Who the cartoon was terrible, but they had the best theme song of all time, the fucking Groovy Ghoulies. And the most successful was Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah.
Because that tied in these Archie characters with the Scooby-Doo teenagers solving Hanna-Barbera, but teenagers solving mysteries genre, which exploded. In the late 60s. But Josie and the Pussycats was so huge, they had 2 shows. They put them in space, for fuck's sakes. But again, the music, it's so funny that Sugar Sugar and Jingle Jangle, but Sugar Sugar, everyone knows that song. Everyone knows Sugar Sugar, and it's a great fucking song. That it was just a throwaway thing based on these comic books. Archie was getting huge in the 60s. It was really exploding.
Oh, totally. Yeah. The cartoon was huge. I always thought the voice of Archie just wasn't right, though.
No, I never liked it either.
Horrible. I don't know
never liked it either.
Who it was, but ugh.
Well, it was so hard for them to figure out what voice should this character have, because he's a character that people have imagined a voice in their heads for generations, and they never get it right in the cartoons. He's always kind of high pitched.
Castrated Archie.
Hi, Jug. And Jug was fine and read the big moves. Yeah. But Archie was always like high pitched and whiny. I'm like, that's not how I picture it.
No, they couldn't get the voice right. But yeah, there was a whole bunch of different Archie cartoons. There was the Archie Show, the Archie Comedy Hour.
Go ahead.
Archie's Funhouse. The U.S. of Archie.
U.S. of Archie. That's the one. I loved U.S. of Archie because the conceit of that show, and they had a time machine?
Maybe, probably. Yeah.
Or something. Basically, the Archie gang would go and be in a major part of history and meet historical characters. And it was to teach a little history. Yeah. And it was like the Life with Archie stories, where you take the characters and put them in this wacky situation. And I remember watching reruns of U.S. of Archie. I loved that shit. There was the 2 I remember. They're tagging along with Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea.
Of course.
And the other one is they're meeting George Washington Carver. and it's dealing with racism. And I just remember loving it. It was fantastic.
Wow.
I loved that show.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw them. It would have been when I was very young. I don't.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
remember.
I was a kid
Yeah.
at the time, so you were a baby.
Yeah, well, I mean, but they did rerun. Like, I know I saw other Archie cartoons, like late.
Yeah, they didn't show U.S. of Archie in Canada, I'm sure.
Yeah, that may be the reason. I was going a bit too far. We got to maintain our Canadian content regulations and all that. That's the reason. You got it right there. All right. So before we leave the 60s behind, anything else to touch on?
No, because we're about to get into. It's so funny. I want to say like the second boom period, but it's all been a boom period up to this point. From the 40s on, it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And the 70s, based on Sugar and that explosion, it just becomes huge.
Yeah.
Huge. What we're going to talk about next.
Yeah. I mean, 1970, you get the Chuck Clayton character introduced. The first black character in the Archie world.
He's an athlete. Imagine that.
Yes. Also plays a part in the Riverdale TV show.
Yeah. And his dad is introduced too, because he's because they had the coach, who was another old white fat guy, Coach Cleats.
Yes.
But by the way, the teachers have been. We talked about Ms. Grundy, and Mr. Weatherby. We've also now have Miss Beasley, the lunch lady, who's just grotesque. The chemistry teacher, science teacher, is Mr. Flute Snoot.
Professor Flute Snoot.
Professor Flute Snoot, I'm sorry.
Which is weird, because if you're a professor, you shouldn't be teaching
high school.
But whatever.
There was an incident with my Flute Snoot. Because he's got a big nose, you say.
Yeah.
And it was Coach Cleats, and they sort of phased him out in favor of Chuck's dad as the coach.
Right.
They kind of realized, like, Riverdale is really white. We need this was their token black character.
Yeah.
But to their credit, they realized that needed to be done.
Yeah, and this really brought football into Archie big time. Suddenly Archie and Reggie were on the team with Chuck. I don't know if it was played up much before Chuck was introduced, the whole football thing. I don't think it really was. I guess it was. Yeah, there was issues. There's one from the 40s, I believe, where Jughead joins the team and turns out to be really good at football, of course. And,
yeah, but it was very much, if the story called for it. But,
yeah, that's true.
Well, it was the early 70s, and as we realized, they needed to get them away from being a bunch of fucking hippies who are about to play Woodstock with their rock and roll music, and get them back on the field playing football and loving Jesus.
Yes. Well, speaking of loving Jesus, I guess there's no better time than now to bring up this interesting chapter in the history of Archie Comics.
It's my favorite chapter.
So the story, as far as I know, is that there is a company called Spire, I guess, or
Spire, yes.
Yeah, who basically licensed the Archie characters to make their own Christian-themed comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, these turned up only in like dentist office and walk-in clinics, anywhere where you had like a stack of magazines to occupy your time before you had an appointment. And I don't recall them ever being on sale anywhere.
No, they weren't.
But I think they do have a price on them. If you look on the cover,
they do.
It's like the weird 39 cents.
Yeah, that's right.
Like a very specific number. And maybe it's some religious significance. I don't know.
Maybe, but I never recall them seeing on any news. Never ever once on the rack that said "Hey Kids Comics" did I see a Spire's comic.
No, but Yeah, for me, dentist offices had them, in abundance, for whatever reason. I guess, they were tied in with the churches, and that's probably where they got them from.
Well, they hung around, and that's the thing, because they're all from the early 70s.
Yeah.
Okay, I would find them at flea markets, and they'd be given, someone would give you a stack of comic books because they know you like comic books. You'd always get a couple of Spires, religious comics, and they're all from the early 70s, but you're like, talking about, they were in the doctor's office. I was like, they'd stopped printing them, I think, by 77.
Oh, yeah, or if not earlier.
If not earlier. They just think they just stuck around because no one, if you're a comic book collector and fan and you're at the dentist office and there's a comic book, you figure, I'm going to slip this under my shirt and get it out of here because I collect comic books. No one's taking the fucking the Spires, home. Like I don't need to. I'll read them, but I don't need to reread Archie talking about Jesus.
No, I found them so strange because
they're so weird.
The artists are the same. It's the same artist that you would see in the regular Archie comic.
Yeah, but not giving it their all.
Of course, phoned in art, but still. So it was the official Archie look, but it was religious comics. And here's some of the titles. Archie's Love Scene.
Love Scene.
They did a lot of comics without the Archie characters in it, such as Tom Landry and the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, that's that one. Oh, the most famous one I think of is Hello, My Name is Johnny Cash.
Right, yeah.
I got that one.
Hansy, the girl who loved the swastika.
I remember that one.
With a very happy Fräulein on the cover.
Just realized, I didn't own that one. I had the Johnny Cash one, which is actually really great. And I've had a bunch of the Archies, but we're going to keep naming.
The God Smuggler, which it looks to be about the Soviet Union. Let's see the caption on the comic. It's a guy driving a car coming up to a checkpoint with Soviet guards. Lord, I have Bibles for your children across this border. You have made blind eyes see. Please make seeing eyes blind. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the covers. Okay, the Archie ones covers are all. It's all about the in the early 70s, there was what they called it the Jesus freak movement, where we're going to turn on kids to Jesus. Hippies, Jesus Christ Superstar was a big thing behind this too. That was such a huge hit. Mm-hmm. That you had hippies who were getting into Jesus and we're going to appeal to that. So all the covers for the Archies, Archie and the gang, and and it's cool colors and stuff. But these, a lot of them, this one and a few others, the covers are dramatic. Someone's about to get fucked up over their love of God.
Yeah. Perhaps the most famous is the cross and the switchblade.
Okay. I will cut you. Yeah, you can. You can cut me into 1,000,000 pieces, and every one of those pieces will say, I love you.
Yes. Iconic.
There was a movie, too. That was a movie as well.
Yeah, it's called David Wilkerson's The Cross and the Switchblade.
Yeah, it was a book and a movie, and they did the comic.
Wow.
And he was a crusading priest in the inner city.
Yes, yeah. I definitely remember that one.
Wait, I'm sorry. Not a priest, because these are the most Protestant books you've ever read in your life. I'm sorry.
That's right. Yeah, none of that fancy Catholic adornments and stuff. Yeah, no, these are, for me, it's just, I just remembered, always coming across them in the dentist office and just.
My favorite of the Archie titles was Archie's Sunshine.
Yes.
Sun, spelled S-O-N.
Yeah, and it's got Big Ethel on the cover. It's the whole gang on the beach, all having fun, and it's in the middle is Big Ethel saying, I'm lonely.
Because because she hasn't found Jesus.
Yeah.
I think she finds Jesus. And then Big Ethel's okay. The gist of these was Archie and the gang are very religious. And they have their little typical stories, but there was always they'd end up praying together. One was these two teenagers leaving school and they're fucked up on the drugs and get into a car crash. After they called Archie and Betty squares. And then Betty's, holding the girl's hand. The dude, he's the bad influence. It's kind of like fuck him. But she's going, oh, I'm ready to accept Jesus. And Betty is getting in the way of the paramedics to pray. And there's another one I distinctly remember where they're not just really Christian, they're missionaries. And they go to Africa to be missionaries. And they're in an African village and they have to eat the food of the villagers. And they show that the food they eat, it's like, well, they chew up leaves and then spit them out into these bowls and then you eat that. And Veronica's all like, oh, I don't know if I could eat this. And Jughead's like, I need a hamburger. And they're all like, Jesus would eat it. And so they all, or something like that. It's fucking crazy.
Oh, I should mention the main artist was R.I.V.E.R.D.A.L.E. And he did regular Archie comics at the time, too. Yeah.
There was a ton of them. They were very popular.
Yep, from 1972 to 1981 they were published. So
81?
Yep.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just up until like 76.
It seemed like it, yeah, because the fashions in the comics were all 70s, for sure, of course.
But I remember as a kid, and I was like, we were kind of a religious family, more or less, and I'd read them because I'd read anything that was a comic book, and I just remember being they disturbed me. Because I was like, I don't know if I wanted to keep it separate.
Yeah. Archie and State must be separate.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Because I'd be a little kid and I'm like all into Jesus. I'm like, yeah, this is just weird. Archie and because even then I knew Archie and the gang like to get in trouble. they're not a bunch of fucking goody goodies. Mm-hmm. Big Ethel's lonely. That's the best.
Yeah, no, I found them disturbing too. It didn't seem right. It was so weird.
I wish someone would put a whole collection of everything Spire and publish that, because these comics are crazy.
Yeah, I who knows? There may be something out there. You never know. But an very interesting footnote to the Archie story is the Spire Christian comics of the 70s.
Well, the thing is, for those of us of a certain generation, these were ubiquitous in our lives. They were everywhere.
Yep, they were. Yeah, they were. Yeah, like I said already numerous times, every time you went to the dentist.
Basically, it's like this, Cal. It's like, oh, I understand your boy likes comic books. Yeah, he loves them. We have some comic books I think he'd enjoy. Hey, Archie, he loves Archie. Hey, I love Archie, Mom. Oh, why is Archie in Roman Centurion Guard?
Why is he kissing the feet of Jesus?
Yes. Why is Archie putting his finger through Jesus' hand? He's a doubting Archie.
Yeah, it wasn't right. No. So strange. For years, I wondered, like, did I imagine these? Did these really exist? Yes, they existed. Another interesting aspect of the 1970s for Archie was the attempted diversification of the Archie name and marketing it everywhere.
Ooh.
And one way they did that was with the I believe it's called the Archie Family Restaurant.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. the only time I've ever actually heard of it is in that story we're going to talk about.
Yes.
Was that a real thing?
It was. There was 2 locations, I believe. One in Illinois and one in
Riverdale.
But anyway, I read about it a couple of days ago, and how both of them were like horribly mismanaged. Like the people that owned them were, bored.
You got Jughead on the line. No one's getting a burger.
Yeah, it was like borderline, almost like mob run type thing.
So it was actually run by Starchy.
Yeah. So yeah, they didn't last too long. But yes, that story you mentioned, where that was like when it was just debuting, the restaurant, and I believe that even the mayor of this town in Illinois even appeared in that. Maybe it wasn't that story, maybe it was another one, but he definitely appears in one of them. But yeah, Johnny, talk about the story with
okay.
Archie.
So it's a story, and it starts off like Archie and the gang are in an office, and they're running Archie Enterprises, basically. And it's Archie does like, hey, Veronica, bring me in the latest reports on the jelly line. And like, oh, Archie, we're in partnership with Welch's. And they're showing these jelly jars with Archie. I remember the Archie jelly jars. They were around forever. People used to save jelly jars, by the way. It was a thing we did in the 70s and the early 80s. They were collectibles. But it was a thing, especially for Welch's. You wanted to get all the characters. And, they're talking about the songs, and they're talking about this and that. And they go into the first of our new Archie restaurants. And I was like, Archie restaurants? That didn't actually ever happen, did it? And apparently it did. And like talk about like where they're going to go. They're bringing in real life characters. They're bringing the publisher of Archie Comics, to talk about the comics line. Oh, we're really happy with how everything's going over there. Oh, that's great, Archie. And then he wakes up and it's all a dream. And but in it, so you got Betty and basically it's like Mad Men. Because Betty and Veronica are like secretaries, and they are sexed up in little mini dresses. Mm-hmm. Here he is. I got it right here. He's on the phone with John Goodman, the manager, who's drawn like Nixon. He's talking about it. He's like, hey, John, I'd like to make all of our comic magazines giant size now so our readers can get more for their money. We're in the process of doing that, Archie. And we're going to give them better stories. How many different Archie comic titles do we have, John? 33, Archie. 33. Jesus. And how's my newspaper strip going? Great. And I didn't talk about it. He goes, contact Hanna-Barbera. And there's a shot of, like, Veronica, like, leaning over his desk and talking to him about how the Archie's record sales are doing. And it is just sexy as fuck.
Yeah.
It's almost dirty. But here's he's like, come into the conference room, girls. I'll show you some of the things we have to market today. We have Archie lunchboxes, Archie games, coloring books, puzzles, and lots of other Archie licenses. Look at this, Betty, an Archie film slide projector. Here's something kids will like. Hey, an Archie wristwatch. I even have a Josie one. And then you have Veronica leaning back with her shoving her tits out saying, you sure have a lot of great Archie products. It's crazy. And then they get into the fucking restaurant.
Yeah.
And then Archie's going to, do a commercial to tell people to save the environment. He's going to save the world, basically, as Archie. And then he has to wake up and take Veronica to the fucking movies.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a hilarious story.
The art is tremendous in this. It's a total PR thing to say, look, we're Archie and we rule the fucking world. Marvel, DC, you guys can fight amongst yourselves. We're fucking Archie.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys have tried to put out records. We had a #1 fucking hit. Okay? you guys have been trying TV. We've smashed fucking TV shows. We have 33 books of Archie that all sell.
Yeah.
So it's a fun story, but it's definitely a propaganda piece.
Oh, big time. It's maybe perhaps the peak of Archie right there.
Oh, it's it. I mean, that is the hubris of fucking Archie.
Yeah.
Right there.
Looking down upon the rest of the comic book industry. And the art was done by Harry Lucy, a man we haven't mentioned yet, but one of the titans of Archie Comics, great artist. And the restaurant, the first Archie restaurant was opened in Joliet, Illinois, in 1973.
Known for its jail.
That's right. And the second one was in Maryville, Indiana, in 1974.
Oh, Maryville.
Yes. And both failed miserably.
Well, the problem was they had Moose for keeping the books. So, fine.
Yeah. My own personal story about like Archie restaurants comes from as a kid, we used to go back to Saskatchewan, where my family roots are from, and where my aunt and uncle had a farm, well, amongst other family members, but they had a farm outside of a place called Kinistino in Saskatchewan, a small little town. And in that town, they had a place called Jughead's Drive-In. And,
no shit.
Yeah, which had like a picture of Jughead on the sign. And
you Canadians ripping off American.
Yeah, and my cousin worked there when she was in high school.
Did they have to wear the hat?
Yeah, I can't remember. I can remember going there because like it was a burger shack, and it was great.
Well, hopefully, we're gonna open a Jughead's. What are we gonna sell?
Yeah,
grilled cheese.
Yeah, and ice cream. And so it was a great place for a kid to go, of course. Yeah, I can remember. That was, when we went there, it was like, we have to go to Jughead's, got to go to Jughead's.
No girls allowed? Is it?
Yeah. But it's this funny thing in small town Saskatchewan in Canada that there was this Jughead's Drive-In with like an image of Jughead on it. I don't know how official it was or whatever.
I don't think it was at all official.
No. It was totally illegal, like this total bootleg Archie restaurant.
So Jughead's people were like, fucking Archie opened a fucking restaurant. I'm Jughead. I'm the guy that eats Archie restaurant. I'm going to Canada.
so
I'm going to slowly build my brand here.
So obscure. I looked up online and it no longer exists. Of course, the diner still exists. It's still a diner, but it's not Jughead's anymore.
Picture the Archie lawyers showing.
Yeah, finally. Yeah, where the fuck are we? Kinistino, Saskatchewan.
We have a cease and desist order.
Yeah, so that's my little tie into that.
That's fantastic.
But yeah. What a world Archie had become in the early 70s.
Well, that goes to show you, though, all joking aside, that goes to show you how huge these characters have permeated popular culture all over the world.
Yep. Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's ubiquitous, like you said earlier. All right. Well, let's maybe start getting into wind down mode here.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered the biggest things. I think the most iconic moments of the first 4 decades or whatever.
I do want to mention that life with Archie in the 70s in his early 80s got real into like multi-chaptered mysteries.
Yes.
And the outer space stuff.
Yeah, and horror. A lot of horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became like a quasi-horror book at one point. But yeah, a lot of mysteries. Yeah, like you said, yeah, it was... those ones were reprinted a lot in the digest. I definitely remember those. There was one I remember about like a building collapsing on somebody. I think it may have even been Chuck. And the whole story was like, it was, him having to be rescued. He was buried under rubble. And that I remember that one being very riveting.
I remember one where Archie and Veronica are on like a desert island, and they think that's a UFO, but it's a mad scientist and trying to get Mr. Lodge's money and shit. It's like adventure stuff.
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, like super, very interesting, very, quite different, of course, than we've already discussed. Like in the 80s now, we had the introduction of the Cheryl Blossom character, something different, and her brother Jason. And
his terrible Speedo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and two central characters to the Riverdale TV show as well. Yeah, that was sort of, the one, like, big sort of change in the early 80s. First new character introduced in quite some time. So, I mean, the 80s, this is when I got into Archie. All the digests. And, the stories, I mean, even as a kid, I kind of preferred the older stories.
Oh, so did I.
Yeah, in the digest, and didn't really relate to the one, because it comes off kind of ham-fisted when you look at something that was contemporary from, say, like 85, 86, and they're doing whatever fad was popular at the time. They did a lot of stories with the punks.
Video games.
Yeah, a lot of video games.
Music videos.
Yeah.
E.T.
E.T., yes.
Yeah. And they're just not. They're not as fun. I just don't think. And I still bought them occasionally. Every now and then you get a good one. In fact, one of the ones I got, and we're gonna, as we're moving on, to get to Riverdale, we were gonna talk about the sex stuff in Archie. There were two stories that really pushed the envelope. One of which I only read about in that book, which was apparently there was a story where Archie and Betty were on the road, and it's a thunderstorm, and the car breaks down, and they spend the night in a barn in the hayloft. Nothing happens. But when they get home, the parents think something happens, and they kind of deal with sex a little bit in that one. Apparently the Coopers are like, that Andrews kid fucked our daughter, basically, and no. But then there was this other one. It was the weirdest thing. I remember getting this. I was maybe 12 or 13, going through puberty. And it was just a short story in an Archie book where Archie comes over to Betty's. Her parents are gone, and they're there to study. They start making out, and it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And Betty is all like, at one point, she's like, "Don't worry about the books, just like kiss me with like these fuck me eyes." And it's getting like, the little hearts are all over the panels. and then Jughead knocks on the door. He's like, I'm like, "Oh, hey. And she's like, just, straightening out his sweater, and takes off, and he's all blushing, and Betty is totally blushing, and Jughead's like, "Did I interrupt something?" And the last line is, "Thankfully, yes," or something like that. Where she's just like, "Oof, I just almost gave it up for the fucking Archie." Good thing you showed up, Juggy, because my knees were about to be pinned behind my ears just in 5 minutes. And I just remember being totally taken aback by this. I'm going, because I was old enough at this point. I'm like, I know what fucking is. And I'm like, did that just happen in an Archie? I must have reread that 18. I think I jerked off to it once. I must have reread it like 18 times because I couldn't believe it was in an Archie comic book.
Yeah.
And
well, they walked a pretty fine line over the years. But I mean, let's get into sort of the sexuality of Archie now, may as well.
Oh, yeah.
Dim the lights a little bit.
Hold on, let me get my pants off. Oh, there we go.
But it was definitely something while being a kid, you didn't notice it so much. But going back and reading them now, it really just smashed me over the head with how, it's pretty upfront, much more so than you would find in like Marvel Comics or DC Comics, in a lot of ways. Just with the depiction of the female characters being, at some points just barely clothed. And, I guess that was, a big part of the appeal for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, apparently Riverdale, it's one of those neat things. Riverdale has an ocean and a beach when convenient.
Right. Yeah. It's like
it's kind of like The Simpsons that way.
Yeah.
And when they put them on in the early ones, it was always, no, man, it was a lake. They were going to a lake. And then again, they're like, what do we give a shit?
Yeah.
Riverdale, Springfield, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
We have a beach. And those beaches, especially in the 70s and early 80s, those beach ones, man, they put them in like string bikinis.
Yeah, totally. There's one where Cheryl Blossom, it's one of the first Cheryl Blossoms where...
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, she wants to go topless.
She wants to go topless. She's a string bikini, wants to go topless. And then Jason shows up in a Speedo because, you know what? Maybe girls read this too. There's like the Blossoms like want to fucking just show off their junk. And his thing is... he's like, well, we're not allowed to drink beer on the beach, right? Well, I got this trick, and it's like the magnetic cover. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I had one of those when I was in college. It was a fake soda can wrapper, and it said Dr. Pooper instead of Dr. Pepper. Yeah. I had one, but unlike Jason, I didn't loudly brag about it in front of the beach cops. I get hauled away by the beach cops.
Yeah. No, I mean, in many ways, it's the legacy of the era where Archie was born in the 40s, with the pinup girls, the good girl art, and all of that, how it never went away. And, it just kept, the fashions changed and all that. But it was always, that was true to the original Archie roots, was the depiction of women.
And that's why the ones from the early 80s or to the mid 80s sucked, because girls' fashion at the time, because I lived through it.
Yes.
Everything's big and baggy. I was like, Betty and Veronica are in big baggy new wave clothes. So, no.
Yeah, it's true.
Get them back in the mini dresses, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's true. The fashion went down the toilet. And, yeah. But no, I mean, I'm just looking through it. I think they kind of almost sanitized things by the 90s, much more so than they'd ever been before. Just looking through the future strips here.
Well, they did that, but then they also decided to do a burst of spin-off mags again, where they're like, this is full horror, and this is like, full science fiction again. They tried doing all that again, and
oh yeah, well there was Jughead's, what was it, Time Police or something?
Time Police. It did all kinds of shit like that for a while.
Yeah, but yeah, just looking through it, it seems the art becomes more and more juvenile and sanitized and just inoffensive as you get into the 90s and then into the 2000s. It's weird saying like, oh, Archie lost its edge or something like that. But
no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if everyone listening to this, if you're still listening to this, and aren't familiar with Archie, you might think that's a crazy statement, but there really was still like an edge as far as these are compelling stories to read or every now and then, or for the most part in the 70s up through the early 80s. And then in these collections, you get to those and you're just like, it's nothing.
Yeah, it just becomes very generic looking and just lacks the soul of the old comics. And with it, the sexuality definitely kind of vanished from it in a lot of ways. All right, well, let's... the present day Archies are, like you... I can't remember if you mentioned it on the show or if you mentioned it before we started, but they've revamped them completely.
Yeah.
To where now, Mark Waid, who had done a lot of worked for Marvel and DC in the past, is now a main writer. Tom DeFalco, another Marvel guy, he's I don't know if he's still with Archie, but he definitely had been doing Archie stories in the last 5 years or so. So they definitely have different people working on it, new talent.
Oh, what they did was they went full on just digests for a while. And then they would release these Archie and the gang as grown-ups. And the whole conceit, again, of these were the magazines were two stories. One is, what if Archie marries Veronica? What if Archie marries Betty? And it was two different storylines. And it's all them grown up and having, serious problems, basically. And they were entertaining. And they stopped that, and now they've just revamped it completely. They did a Crisis on Infinite Earths. They revamped it. There's a few books. They've done a few horror books with Sabrina that are definitely not for kids, too, like with zombies and shit. No, they're just experimenting with the characters. And these current Archie comics that Wade and them are doing, they're successful. People like them because they're taking a modern spin on it, but it's all the same characters and all the same dynamics. And it's a hit. They're hit comics. Again, that's the only comic book that's on the stands at the supermarket is Archie. It's nothing else.
No, it really is amazing that 75 years later, it's been reborn and is getting a new lease on life.
And they're good. I read them. They're good.
Yeah, I gotta check those out too, because I've always liked Wade as a writer. He's really good.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so now for the last sort of topic, we're gonna look at building to the Riverdale show. Just want to look at some of the pre Riverdale attempts at television shows over the years for Archie. It's really interesting.
It really is amazing that the cartoon aside and the successful radio show aside.
Right, not counting those.
Not counting those, because one's a cartoon and one's the Golden Age of radio, okay? But you'd have thought, I mentioned Dobie Gillis, total ripoff, and a huge hit. You'd have thought they would have figured out how to do Archie as a live-action TV show over the course of 75 years, and no, until now.
That's true. So apparently there was a pilot in 1962.
Oh, really?
Yes, that is lost to time. But they did a pilot 2 years later, in 1964, and that's on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, it's called Life with Archie, I believe. You should be able to find it. I stumbled upon it yesterday, but I didn't watch it.
Oh, I'm going to watch it as soon as we're done.
Yeah. So I'm not sure why it didn't get picked up, what happened, or what network exactly attempted it. But, there was a Dick Tracy. We talked about this on the Dick Tracy show. There was a Dick Tracy pilot in the 60s that didn't get picked up as well.
Maybe there's some network executive going, what's this for cactus shit? It's just a ripoff of Dobie Gillis.
Yeah, it's funny, though, because Archie was super popular. And then now flash forward to the 70s, there was another pilot on what was known as ABC's Saturday Comedy Special. I guess it was an ongoing series that featured different shows every episode. I'm not sure.
I remember this, but I remember there were two in the 70s.
Yes.
I don't remember which one I remember, but they weren't good.
No, the first one was just called Archie, and it was supposed to be, it was a pilot, but again, it didn't get picked up. And then I think they reworked it a bit a couple years later with the same cast, and this was the TV movie called The Archie Situation Comedy Music Variety Show.
Ooh, that is the most 70s thing I've ever heard.
Exactly. Such a 70s title. for sure.
That's the one I remember, though, because I remember it being a variety show, which is a lot of quick bits and musical numbers.
Yes, and all the actors were in their 30s, basically.
Yeah. It was like it was on ABC.
Yep.
And the guy playing Archie is easily 35 years old. And like I said to you before, I'm like, you have Donnie Most right there. And he's playing a 35-year-old teenager on the biggest show on your network right now. Just use him.
Yeah.
Because we like him.
I guess that probably, it was the variety show formula. I don't know. I
remember it. I remember watching it. I remember seeing the Archie guy, and I didn't like him. But he was sitting at like the counter at Pop's Chocolate Shop, and he made some lame joke. And I just remember being like, "This isn't good." I was a kid, and I was like, "I know this isn't good."
Yeah. Yeah, no, like I'm looking at some of the stills from it, and it's pretty bad. And then, of course we have, here's a picture of him with the A sweater.
The A. He has an A on his sweater instead of R. Because here's the thing. This is the era of network TV at its power, is the 70s, before cable. And anything that came from a comic book, and this went on for years and years and years, until recently, anything that came from a comic book, the people behind a network would shit on it because it's comic books. But they're dumb. It's why we got the shows we got in the 70s. The Hulk sucked. Wonder Woman, it all sucked. They saw Archie. He probably came out with the R for Riverdale, and some guy goes, his name is Archie. It's got to be an A.
Yeah.
And that's the thinking. And it's just like, oh no, it's an R.
Yeah.
And he's not balding. Archie's been, the only explanation is that Mr. Weatherby has left him back so many years.
Oh, yeah.
That Archie is a 36-year-old senior.
It all makes sense. I mean, he started in the 40s, and maybe he's in his 50s even.
Yeah, maybe he's aging realistically.
It was brilliant. It was ahead of its time.
It was ahead of its time. Very David Lynch.
Yes. But speaking of Archie characters in their 30s, flash forward to 1990, and I remember this one vividly. This was on NBC. It was.
It wasn't on Fox?
Maybe later, but originally it was on NBC. It was called Archie to Riverdale and Back Again. Mm-hmm. It was just a hour-long, or maybe a couple-hour-long TV movie.
Yeah, I remember it, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah. I had the comic book that came out for it as well, the tie-in, which was interesting because it had the art for the flashbacks when they're teenagers is done in like the original Archie style, maybe even by Dan DiCarlo, I can't remember. But the art in the comic book for when they're adults is done by Gene Colan, of all people. Famous Marvel artist.
So did it follow the same plot line as It?
Very dark. Very dark art.
That's why they have to all get back together.
Yeah.
To defeat the tar guy.
Yeah, it wasn't good. I mean, even as how I was probably 12 or 13 at the time, I didn't like it at all. And that was it for Archie on TV. Well, there was Sabrina the Teenage Witch, had her own TV show to count as a character from the Archie universe, and that was quite successful. Actually.
Oh, and dude, that show was hugely successful.
Yeah. And
also, what's the actress's name?
Melissa Joan Hart.
Melissa Joan Hart. She, because of being on that Clarissa show she's savvy. She got points on that or whatever.
Yeah.
That show made her a fucking billionaire.
Yeah.
She works when she wants to now and stuff, but she took a share on that and owned part of it. That show was my roommate Jeanette adores that show. She's a little younger than me and grew up with it.
Yeah.
And like that's her comfort food. And I'll like walk in and I'll see it. I'm like, this is terrible. But I was like, well, if I was a little kid, I would have probably adored it, you know. And a little girl kid, you know.
Yeah.
That show's huge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was one of the iconic shows of that era, late 90s. Now we get to 2017, and finally we get a Archie TV show worth watching.
All it takes is some fucking.
Yeah, it's called Riverdale. It's on the CW network. So far there's been, I think, 7 episodes. It's a 13-episode season. It's been picked up for a second season.
Oh, totally. It's a huge hit. It's a smash hit.
Yeah. Will Johnny take it away on this one?
Okay, so when I first heard the CW is doing Riverdale, and it's going to be like a teen, you know, they're known for the type teen soaps. And
yeah.
So, but also, they're also known for the DC shows, which are my favorite thing in the world right now.
Right.
I love that they have a show on almost every night. These shows are great. Greg Berlanti is the executive producer on those. He's also the executive producer on this. So anything comic books, I guess, is him. And he's got the magic fucking touch, because this is basically Archie meets Veronica Mars with a dabble of Twin Peaks into this. And when I first heard about it, I was like, this is going to be a disaster. I was like, this is going to stink. But I was going to have to watch it. And I put on that first episode, ready to hate watch it. But I'd heard a few good things. First episode gets done. I'm like, this is goddamn brilliant. It's fantastic. It's crazy. It's super serious. There's nothing funny, but there's some funny stuff in it. But it's about a murder. It's a murder mystery where Jason Blossom has been murdered, and it's a total soap opera. But they also include, as the parents, people who were teen idols in the early 90s. So Archie's dad is Luke Perry.
Yep.
Betty's mom is Machen Amick from Twin Peaks. Jughead's dad is Skeet Ulrich. And they wait, and Hermione is, and then it's just, I don't know the actress's name, but she's, oh my God, I'm in love with her. And they just introduce the characters, and they have this murder mystery that's going on. They do the whole Miss Grundy was a young hot chick who was fucking Archie.
Yeah.
They do Jughead's hat, and it works. And that's the thing that makes this so great. Despite all the deviations and all the craziness, at its core, it still loves Archie because they don't make fun of the silly stuff. There's a Pop's chocolate shop, which they built to scale, actually, for the show.
That's
and
right.
apparently they were having problems with people driving by and pulling over thinking it's a place to eat.
Yeah.
But Jughead is Jughead. His baby sister is Jelly Bean. And they say this with all seriousness. They don't call Big Ethel, but she's just Ethel. But Big Moose is Big Moose. And apparently it's also because he's got a huge cock and he's a closet case. Because he wants to fuck Kevin. Who's also a great character. But all the stuff with Southside Serpentine, which I didn't know until tonight. Mr. Weatherby, like, all the names are completely unchanged. Josie and the Pussycats are in. It's great. And they treat the names as the names. You know, there's no, we need to try to explain this away bullshit. No. It just is what it is. And gives it a sense that the people behind this truly love the Archie universe. And to that point, that Southside Serpents that I didn't know about, that's deep cuts.
Mm-hmm.
That's deep fucking cuts. You are a fan of this if you know that, and you put it in your fucking TV show. And it is addictive. It's fun. It can be the Blossom family is the craziest shit.
Yeah.
It's almost too weird. And apparently it's in New England, because one of the major plot points is there's a blood feud between the Blossoms and the Coopers over the maple syrup industry.
That's right. Yeah.
It's wonderful. And the kid playing Jughead is tremendous. Yeah. And the best thing I like the best is Veronica.
Yeah.
What they do with Veronica on the show is such a great idea, because Cheryl Blossom is the crazy rich, stuck up person. This Veronica comes in, and I'm not going to talk about the whole story, and she's rich and everything, but in the comics, Veronica is always kind of like, she's nice, but she's, a little vapid and a little spoiled. In this, Veronica is actually the brains and heart of the show. She's the moral her and Jughead are the moral centers of this show. And especially Veronica. And the actress who plays her is just knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
And everyone's great in it. The one thing I've read, people say is like, who's the least interesting character on the show? This is Archie.
No, totally, yeah.
I was like, well, read the comics. Archie's the least interesting character in the comics. He's Archie. He's clumsy and this and that, but Reggie and Jughead and Betty and they're all more interesting than Archie is. Yeah. And so the show follows that. And I was so pleasantly surprised that this is as good as it is. I love it.
Oh, me too. Yeah, it's one of my favorite TV shows. It's great. The casting is just perfect. They couldn't have.
It really is.
Yeah, that's the key. They got all the actors. They're just perfect for the roles. Camila, is that how you would say it? Camila Mendes, I believe.
Who plays Veronica?
Yeah.
She's tremendous.
Yeah, she should be a big star in the future.
And she will be.
Yeah, and this is her first role of any note, really, I think, other than some commercials, really.
The kid who plays Jughead was one of those fucking kids from that stupid Disney show about the twins who live in the hotel.
He's a twin. Yeah, Cole Sprouse.
Yeah, and he's great. Reggie is Asian.
Yes.
And so far he's kind of just been a side character. Not much to Reggie so far.
No, yeah.
But I'm sure they'll get to it. There's only so much you can do.
Yeah, but no, it's really well done. It takes all the characters and the history, but then fits it perfectly into the modern setting.
It's so much fun.
Good music, good soundtrack too.
The only criticism I have of it is it's sponsored by I guess Maybelline. The makeup company. The product placement of makeup on the show, because I watch it on the app, and they do the thing where they go, and now we're going to show you how we transform her into Cheryl Blossom, and it's all about the makeup. And then they have these shots in the show, the one where Betty's talking to her mom and she's giving her serious talk, and she grabs the makeup and starts putting on lipstick, and the logo is right in the camera.
Yeah.
It's so obnoxious.
Right.
But I'm just like, what can you do?
It's television.
But you know what? It's so obnoxious. I think the creators are doing it on purpose.
Yeah,
because it's so blatant that they're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean it's a wonderful show, and it's filmed in my neck of the woods in the Vancouver area.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it's a dead giveaway when you see all the pine trees and the nonstop rain. I mean, there's a ton of shows actually filmed.
Well, dude, all the Berlanti shows film up there. Supergirl and Flash and all those film up there.
Yep. The mental hospital where Paulie was staying is just literally like a 5-minute drive from where I live.
Oh.
It's an abandoned hospital on the hill. It's like rumored to be haunted and all that. It's used for a lot of filmings. Often when we drive by, you can see that they're filming something or another there all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's a...
Are there maple syrup wars in Vancouver?
Not that I know of.
Oh, by the way, my favorite thing on the show right now is Mr. Blossom. He's a very small character, but this guy is got to be from the soaps because he has soap opera acting down. And see, all the Blossoms have to have red hair.
Yeah.
And including the crazy old aunt who lives in the attic has white hair and one streak of red.
Yeah. They
all have dyed their hair. But that actor who plays Mr. Blossom is like, I'm not dyeing my fucking hair. And he has the worst wig you've ever seen. And his facial expressions are right out of Days of Our Lives. And he's got this crazy evil red wig on. And I adore him. He's the best. He's overacting. Everyone's trying to be cool. He's overacting like a motherfucker. The show is such a blast.
Yeah, it's a cool show. It's a great show.
But the little things. Jughead, almost all of his T-shirts have an S on them.
Yes.
Little things like that. I'm like, oh, that's so good.
Right. Yeah, that's something we didn't touch upon in the mysterious S on Jughead's shirt.
I know what it stands for. Southside Servants, motherfucker.
Yeah, I guess you could say in Riverdale, that's what it stands for. All right, well, yeah, check it out, everybody who's listening. It's definitely worth it. You don't have to be a fan of Archie to get into it.
You really don't, but trust me, it helps.
Yeah, it helps, but I like the actors are so good, the characters are so good. It's just a really good TV show. All right, Johnny, I think
I think so.
We can call it a night. We've gone inside and out with Archie. I mean, there's so much. I mean, we basically just scratched the surface. This was like.
No, I think we scratched it deep.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we went deep in certain areas.
So you and I are the only people talking about Archie comic books. It's why we're the best.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was another labor of love. I love doing these, and in the future, well, there's a few possibilities for episodes coming up. I'm going to be busy the next few months, but we may be able to squeeze. Yeah, just a little bit. May be able to squeeze one out during that time.
Ooh.
We'll see. I think, we've got Not Brand Ek as a possibility.
Yeah, Firestorm.
Firestorm is another possibility. And one I want to save for later because it's going to take a while if we go through most of the issues is Doom Patrol from the 1960s.
Ooh,
yeah, the 1960s version of Doom Patrol, which doesn't get near enough love. And it's something that I'm pretty unfamiliar with, actually, and I really just want to read it for my own pleasure. So yeah, if we do a show in the next couple months, I think it'll probably be Not Brand X, since that would be the
shortest.
Shortest, yeah. I mean, it's only 13 issues. That one we can bang out rather quickly if we have to. But if not, then it'll be sometime after May 21st. Yeah, we'll get a show out, and we'll have a few more for the rest of the year. That's for sure. Yeah. Anything
else? Apologize to these people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's this is like, I see it as like a documentary series that we put out every few months. It's not a weekly podcast or even a monthly podcast. It's
You don't put Ken Burns on his schedules. You don't put us on a schedule.
exactly. Yeah. This really should be on PBS or something.
I agree. Well, not anymore. We're not going to have that anymore.
Oh, really?
Well,
that's too bad. That's part
no,
of
that's one of the threats of the pineapple Pinochet. So.
Okay. All right, Johnny, anything else to add before we go?
No, man, this was a pleasure. And
yeah.
Again, what I love that we're doing is not just talking about the usual suspects. And I love the fact we talked about Archie Comics because, as Harvey Kurtzman pointed out, it's a giant of the industry that nobody talks about because there's no capes.
That's true, but it's lasted a long time. It's outlasted a lot of other comics that at one time were strong and popular, and now 75 years later, here he is. He's up there with Superman and Batman, basically.
Yeah, but here's a teaser. We're going to do the Harvey books, and we're going to talk about the materialism of Richie Rich, the devil worshipping of Hot Stuff, the fat shaming of Little Lotta, and the obsessive compulsive disorder of Little Dot. And of course, the fact that Casper is the ghost of a dead child.
There you go. I think that'll be like a 5-part series, maybe.
And Baby Huey is, special.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks for listening, folks, and we will be back at some point later in the year with an exciting new show for you. Bye now.
Oh boy, what a day! First I buried a bone, and now I can't find it. My nerves are all jangled. I need a good nap.
Now the Archies are going to sing Jingle Jangle.
Sing me, sing me, sing me. Sing me, sing me, baby.
Stronger if I tried. It's my true heart I'm showing, or my nose would be growing. You know that it gets longer when I lie. Singing la 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 la. Sing me, sing me, sing me. La 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 la. Jingle, jingle, jangle. La 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 la. Sing me, baby. La 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 la. Being kind of pretty and down here in the city, find it isn't easy to be smart.